on a fairway. I was going to do something different, but other than that, no. I would say every round, I think I threw the same disc or shot off of every tee pad.
Okay. And now when you're out practicing, and I think of a fellow competitor in Sarah Hokum, I've seen her actually getting out a little notepad, and it's, or sometimes a caddy guide, and she's writing notes in there, or she's taking notes or looking at notes, maybe from her practice or maybe even from the previous day. Do you do anything physical in that nature, or is it all mental for your notes?
All mental. Yeah.
Okay. Um,
Mhm.
now, what would you say were we talked a lot with Dana about how easy the course is or isn't, course
Mhm.
par, those types of things. You guys had five different tees. Does that sound right? Was it that
I
many?
thought I thought it was only 3. Was it 5?
It might have been. If
Wait,
I
let's see.
heard.
No, maybe. Let's see. Hole 2, 5, 6, and then I don't think we had another one until hole 10,
Not 10. Okay, yep.
and then we didn't have another one until 17, I thought.
Okay, no, you absolutely could be right. I thought I heard that maybe during the live broadcast. When I'm not there, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Right.
Um, so do you care about par? I mean, that's a huge discussion, whether it's Paul McBeth or even just how many under par. We saw a lot of players. Do you care about what par is and relative to your game plan or relative to who's winning the tournament and all that stuff?
Yes and no. I guess I just have to look at the whole my game. What's the best shot, highest percentages? Um, what I don't. So yeah, yes and no. I don't. I guess not necessarily.
I mean,
Just
if
like I just try to break down the hole to my game, my distance, my strong, and then just go from there, I guess.
no, that's fair, and my follow up would be something along the lines of, if you won a tournament by 5 and you shot 5 under par, versus if you won a tournament by 2 but you shot 6 over. I mean, at the end of the day, do you care about any of that, or is just a win a win?
A win's a win. Yeah. I mean, of course, I'm striving to shoot under par. I think that's the whole point.
Yeah.
But like I said, I have to just break down the course and each hole and try to do the best I can do with my game. And yeah, I think when I focus too much on birdieing every hole instead of, like I said, like breaking down the hole and trying to be smart, I think that's, yeah.
Uh, Speaking of games and maybe even playing within your own game, on the FPO side of things this year, there was not nearly the amount of off-season team switching and shakeup. I mean, Sarah Hokum, of course, went from legacy to MVP. For the most part, everybody else stayed with their respective sponsors, as did you, of course, with Prodigy.
Right.
Is there maybe I'll just ask generically, why do you suppose that is? Why do you suppose there was so much more shakeup on the men's side as opposed to the women's side?
Because women are more loyal. No, I don't know. I'm just
It's a
kidding.
great answer. Great answer.
I'm
Sure.
just kidding.
Okay. I mean, I was going to say, does it benefit you? But really, like I said, really Sarah Hokum's the only one learning new plastic. And
Yeah.
you've played with her a little bit. Have you noticed? Do you think she's found her groove, or do you think she's still trying to adapt or not? Can you tell?
Um, I think the only thing she said is the wind is the biggest thing for her, which I think is fair. Like if you went out and did field work for like a month and it was never windy, then you go out and it's windy, you're like, okay.
Uh,
So
and that makes, yeah. Now, we see quite a divide going on right now. There's a number of players that are traveling east to go over to Florida, and then there's quite a few that are staying in Texas. What are your plans kind of for the next couple of weeks?
we're in Belton Temple area,
Okay.
um, playing the A tier here. Austin's friend's getting married next weekend, so we'll be in the Austin area, but kind of just hanging out. Um, and then Nick Hyde. That's our plan.
Okay. So
Yeah.
Belton is this weekend, is that correct?
Hmm.
And is that an A tier?
It should be. Yeah. It
Okay.
has been every year. Hmm.
I'm just, it's one of the, it's a tournament that I'm just overall not that familiar with. I haven't been to Texas for that time frame so I'm not familiar with it. What are you expecting this weekend? What's the field look like? What's the competition look like? That kind of thing.
Um, you know what? I haven't looked at the list. I know I've seen Kona, Stephanie Vincent, and that's all I've seen. So I'm so sorry.
No, no, no. That's
Normally it's a strong field. I know in 2017 I battled with Paige Pierce and ended up coming ahead. And then in 2018 I was battling. There was actually 2 full cards of like, or maybe more, of like touring pro women, like Lisa Fakis, Jessica Weiss, Sarah Holcomb, Rebecca. Who else was there? Lisa, I think, was there. So in the past few years, it's been pretty strong fields. But like I said, I'm so sorry I haven't looked to see.
No, Terry just pulled it up,
I
and
just
it looks
pulled it
like
up.
there's
Yeah, and it
12 women in the division.
and
So
Okay, yeah.
certainly a strong field. So Kona, Stephanie, Lisa Fakis, Rebecca Cox, yourself, Christina Linthicum, Jessica Weiss, Valerie and Alexis Mundahano, Lauren Butler, Shannon, and Deanne. So certainly some stiff competition there as well. And then I know there's actually some pretty solid competition over in Florida at Throw Down the Mountain. I think there's 9 pro women registered there, so it should be great.
Okay. Awesome.
For someone like myself that's never been there, what is the course like? Do you feel like it plays, to any strong suits or weak points of your game, anything like that? What can you give us the lowdown on?
This is the 3rd year I played it, and this is the 3rd course I played. Every year we've played a different course.
Okay.
And this one is newer. They're still like doing things to it. It's an old golf course. It's kind of like Jonesboro, like a little bit. There's some elevation, big trees, long shots. Only difference is there's a lot more OB here.
Okay. And
Yep.
do you prefer that golf versus, say, really tight wooded golf?
I would say probably, but I think I'm kind of getting to the point where I don't care anymore what the course looks like. I just
play
have accepted. Yeah. Well, I feel like maybe it was like in 2012 or 13. I wanted to be able to play good in all conditions, all courses, long, short, wooded, open, OB, no OB. So.
Well, and so those are all the condition types. And now let's talk a little bit about what we've seen for weather already this year. I mean, I had that picture with you, and as you were all bundled up in Vegas, we saw snow in Vegas. We saw then gorgeous weather, just a few days later in Arizona. We've seen a little bit of everything. You have everything you need along with you. So whatever the conditions are.
Yep, I'm prepared.
One of the things that Steve mentioned, and I think we see certainly as a growing trend, there's more and more women that are on the road, if not full time, pretty damn close to full time.
Yeah.
What can you attribute that to?
I don't know. I would say more like when I first started, like in 2011, touring, there would be like 7 women at a national tour. Like I remember thinking like, I got to get top 3. Hopefully they pay out 4 to cash. And now we're seeing like 40 women. So I think that helps the growing size of the field, makes it easier for more women to cash, and which means more women on tour. I think hopefully, I don't know this for sure because I don't know what other women get, but I'm thinking sponsors with the tour discs we're seeing, that might make it easier. And then with the Disc Golf Pro Tour and the NTs, and then like you're saying now, like to see like 12 women at an A tier is also huge. So I think it's making it easier because there's bigger tournaments and bigger fields.
Yeah, it's been incredible, and I've obviously seen part of that growth, and I think I think it's almost even undervalued a little bit, as you just mentioned, the Pro Tour. That's one of Steve's number one goals, is to make it sustainable for people to go out on the road, whether it's for the first half or the last half or the entire year. It's a well thought out schedule and series of events that then intermixes with national tours and A tiers. and it provides those opportunities. And I don't know if it's been that well thought out in the past.
Right.
So it's, obviously doing really good things for that. And bonuses, more exposure, more sponsorships, all of those things can then kind of go along with that.
Exactly. Yep.
Let's talk a little bit about the Waco event that you actually just won. You went into the final round with I don't know if anyone calls her Little Paige anymore now that she's getting older and she's a world champion. But you guys went into that round tied, I believe. And
Yep.
Can you walk us through how that round went for you? Because it looks like you had a few ups and downs, and Paige was, relatively consistent with just a couple bogeys, but she didn't get the birdies that you did.
Yeah. Let's see. I know she birdied first, so that put her up. And yeah, I think it was just the 2 par 5s, right? That got her.
She had the 2 par 5s, and then she also bogeyed hole 15, the par 4.
Okay.
Well, you bogeyed, it looked like 7 and 10, but had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 birdies that round.
Okay. Yeah. So, I guess the only thing I could really think to say is that after Vegas, I felt like I was really trying to play safe and timid and all these things instead of just playing to win. And so I told myself I was going to go out and just stick to my game plan and like play my heart out and play to win. And if I lost, at least I didn't feel like I was timid and playing to not lose, I guess.
Do you feel that has been one of your struggles recently? I mean, we've seen you put up some really great scores, and then we've seen you have your struggles either off the fairway or more recently off the on the green. Is it you just being scared or timid? Do you need to be more aggressive?
No, I guess what I'm saying is like in Vegas, the last round, because I was leading by so many or like 3 or 4, I'm like, oh, I'll just, try to shoot even that way. That forces someone to shoot like 5 or something like that, 4 or better. And instead of just playing the course the way I plan to play the course. And if that comes out ahead. So I don't know. I don't think I was like, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you feel like your putting has been better this year? I mean, I haven't had a lot of chance to check out some of the FPO footage recently, but
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think I, still miss like everybody else, but I feel like a lot more, and I feel like really confident inside of 25 feet, which I think is always important. And then every once in a while making some outside the circle. So yeah, definitely way better.
Okay. Yeah, you were pretty consistent. You shot 3 down, 4 down, then 5 down. So
yeah,
kept every round under par, which is quite a feat out at Waco in general.
Yeah.
Now, are you one of those people today that the ratings came out per the PDGA? Did you look, and B, what do you think about the change if you did?
I did. I saw that people were posting it. I didn't like run to the site. I didn't know it was ratings day, but everyone posted. And I mean, of course, no matter what you say, you go and check and you're like, oh, okay, sweet. I went up, or,
sure.
Oh, okay, shoot, I stayed the same, or I went down. But, I know that sometimes I play around, like personally, the first round at Waco didn't feel that great. And then it's 997. And then some, like the last round felt a lot better, and it was 979. So I'm like, I kind of try to just not look at the rounds until, or my rate, like really worry about it until, I don't know. I guess I don't truly care at all, to be honest with you.
No,
I one time won a major and barely shot my rating. So what does that mean? I played bad. I won a major.
Well, exactly, and that's where
to
me that kind of goes hand in hand with where you are relative to par on any given weekend. Like a win is a win, and if it said I shot 900 golf for 3 straight rounds, but I still won the tournament, like to me, I don't care what the rating says. I care about the win. So I can understand.
I mean, right. I mean, I know when I'm playing good. When it feels good, I don't really need another number to tell me about the number I just shot.
maybe that follows the next question is, do you pay any attention to UDisc stats after the fact? Will you ever go back, and whether it's, a cumulative through the year or for any given weekend, will you ever go back and be like, oh, my inside, circle one was 87% this weekend. Will you look at any of that?
Yes and no, but like I was like a lot of times I'll lead in like driving
Uh-huh.
and then have a lower putting, but it's like, well, I had like, what was it? It was like 20 some percent inside circle one, but then 72 in circle two. And
Yeah.
anyways, what I'm saying is
Yep.
like I'm giving myself more opportunities. So I guess if I missed 3 or 4 in the circle, but I had 10, that's still 7 birdie putts, let's say, or something like that I made. So I guess I don't take them too seriously.
Sure.
Like I'll more like just go down and count and then think about, okay, well, where was I? I was outside the circle. I was just inside, because inside the circle, like, okay, well, if I make 100%, but I was never outside of 25 feet, whoop-de-doo. But if I miss like 2 putts and they were like 28 to 32 feet, it's like, well, yeah, I should make those, but that's a different story. You know what I mean? So I know they're good to have and look at, but no, not really.
Yeah, because we're looking at your stats. I'm looking at your stats right here, and you were first in parked percentage, so you were getting closest to the basket. First in circle 2 in regulation, which could be good or bad depending on how you read it. Because if you're always in circle 2 but you never get in circle 1, you were also first in circle 1. So surprise, surprise, and first in birdie percentage, which obviously is a good indicator of someone who's playing pretty well that particular weekend.
Have we seen? I don't know if is parity the word. Have we seen that there's more women on any given weekend that are stepping up and that are playing at a high level and that could win on any given weekend? Is that becoming more or less the case? Probably, if it is, I'm guessing you don't want that. But if it is, do you see that happening? Do you feel more challenged maybe now than ever before?
Yeah, absolutely. Because there's more women on tour, so they're I feel like they're not on tour and just like sitting around. They're working hard, improving their game, and yeah, like you're seeing more and more women, shoot great rounds, and like, they might be in like 7th place and shoot like 4 down and jump up to like 3rd. So it's kind of fun. Yeah, I like watching the leaderboards switch and change, and women go from first card to third card to 2nd card, where we used to just see like, oh, you made on the lead card the first round and you shot good 2nd round, you're probably there on the 3rd round.
Yeah, it's certainly getting a lot more competitive, probably for a number of those reasons. If there's someone out there listening, whether they're thinking about touring or they maybe them playing forever and they still will continue just to play locals, what would you give for advice to a woman out there that is maybe questioning her skill sets or questioning her game in any capacity? Like, what would you say to that woman that's out there watching or listening?
For me, I was working at Texas Roadhouse. I had a great job. I was bartending, made great money. We were super busy. And my boss looked at me and said, your job's going to be here, but 10 years down the road, you may not have the same opportunities. So just go out and do it. That's the way I look at it. Like, if you don't try, you don't know. So just, I don't know. I would say just do it.
Jump in.
Just jump in. Yeah. I mean, obviously, you have to be prepared, but if you think you're good enough and you think you have the skill set, then yeah, just come out and do it.
Yeah. And I love that mentality. And, we saw our now current world champion in Paige last year make, a pretty crucial life decision, but yet school will always be there if she chooses she wants to go back, but then to stay on tour and then go win a world championships. I think that speaks exactly to what you're saying.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
How about take it a step further in terms of words of advice? What should they be worried about with their game? They want to go on tour. They have the means to do it. They're thinking about it. What would you say to them they should be going out and focusing on before they hit the road? What types of either skills or routines should they be focused on?
Just consistency, I think. Like if they're going out and like shooting great rounds, but then having those like really, really, really horrible rounds, like I would try to get as consistent as possible, I guess. like really knowing your game, knowing your shots, knowing your strong suits. So when you go out on tour and you have to practice a course, you look at a hole and you know your game and how to break it down and how to play it to get the best score and be consistent.
Yeah, and what I'll say to that is I feel like, and I know I'm not alone in saying this, you've proven, and I think Paige has proven, now arguably both of the Pages, there are so many strokes to pick up inside the circle. And if you can putt inside the circle, if you're making, that 85 to 90 plus percentage inside the circle, it feels like that's an easy place to pick up strokes. Was that a fair assessment? Do you feel like that's a strong suit?
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
I mean, it might sound all too basic, but at the same time, I feel like if somebody wants to be really good and can really make up a lot of strokes in the FPO field, just be making every putt. I mean,
yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think that's, yeah.
All right. So you Texas, then ultimately over to Nick Hyde. And then from there, we'll see you, move over to Jonesboro. Hopefully we don't have snow there. Is that right?
Yep.
Is there anything out of the ordinary this year on your tour schedule that I would be like, she's going where? Or she's doing what? Is there anything out of the ordinary?
Nope. Same old me from following the Disc Golf Pro Tour, NTs, and majors, and then fillers in between.
All right. Then what either stretch or event would you say like, oh, yeah, I'm definitely ready to get there, whether it's because of the area, because of the people, because it's a win you want? Is there any particular stretch that you really look forward to?
European Open. Get to see Ellie and Teemu and all my Finnish friends, and actually try and speak some of the Finnish that I've been learning. And I just love that event. So yeah, European Open for sure.
How are you going about learning Finnish? Like what?
Just watch swear words on YouTube.
Texting some of my Finnish girlfriends, like the women who play. So yeah.
That's awesome. And yeah. I was going to say, trying to pick up that, wow. Was your mom out watching live this weekend? Did I see her on the boards? Is that possible?
Yeah, I think so. I
Awesome.
think she's been watching every chance she's got for sure.
Okay. What does that feel like, as we're seeing more FPO coverage, whether it's edited and or live? What's that feel like for more people to be able to, watch you go out and compete on the weekends?
I mean, I think it's great. I think it's great that my mom's thousands of miles away and gets to sit and watch me, and I think it's great that they're not just watching the men in the afternoon live. They get to see the women, and I think that hopefully will inspire more women to want to go out, practice, and get out on tour.
Yeah, I think that's definitely become a byproduct. Is we love seeing and reading and hearing these stories where they say, oh, we wake up and we make sure we're ready to go, whether it's my daughter or obviously it doesn't have to be specific to females, but my daughter or my girlfriend or my wife, loves watching watching the FPO side way more so, and that's awesome that those opportunities are available now. So
yeah, absolutely.
Was there any specific moment this weekend that you would love to share or maybe reflect on? I mean, it could be the final putt you put in for the win. It could be anything on or off the course. Was there any specific moment that when you think back about the 2019 Waco event that you could share with us?
Just that like a year ago, I was struggling horrible with my putts. Like it was a nightmare, and the feelings I had were horrific. And just to fight back after a year and come back and putt confidently, whether I missed or not, I felt confident on every putt. I wasn't thinking bad thoughts. Oh, what if I miss low? And it rolls away. I was always just thinking about, how am I going to make this and committing to that. So that felt really great.
What's changed? What's brought that about? Last year to this year, and that completely different, we'll say, attitude. What brought that about?
Just changing back to my push putt. I just feel confident with that. I'm not worried about comebackers, missing left or right. So I think that, and just lots of practice with it.
Okay. Is there people that you, and I think you kind of made a post that kind of summarizes what you just said, but are there any people, FPO or MPO or anyone else, even family or whomever, is there anyone that maybe helped with some of that?
Yeah, of course, Austin has been supportive through it, talking to me, listening to how I feel, and helping me fight through that. And then my best friend Shelly, and so yeah, those two people are probably the most influential, or like they're supporting me through it and helping me fight through it.
That's awesome. Well, it's
Yeah.
I think we all need support networks, and it's interesting when you see and read and hear about those networks that are both inside and outside of golf. I mean, you could tell someone that maybe doesn't know anything about golf, but I just think having that dialogue and being able to share with someone is just so crucial, to the development and then possibly even the solutions. It's
Yeah,
great to see
absolutely.
and hear. So you guys are, you and Austin are in a trailer. You're pulling behind a camper this year.
Yeah.
Is that's the plan for the entire year? You've got a truck and then you're pulling a trailer behind. How's that been going?
Really awesome. I love it.
What has been your the most exciting part of it in terms of having that, we'll say, lifestyle as opposed to, in a house or anything else? What's been the most exciting part about having that trailer, that camper?
Sleeping in the same bed, being able to cook, and then just like Austin and I being able to come back after the day, sit on the couch together, watch TV, have our own space. So yeah,
Who's the cook?
I am.
And what's the quick, like, we need to eat quickly because we're gonna get back out and practice before the rain comes? Like, what's the quick meal?
I do a salad and he does like a sandwich.
And what's the we're gonna relax and celebrate a win and yeah, take it slow? What meal is that?
Cheesecake Factory.
Okay, so you farm out the winning meal.
Winner, go to dinner.
Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. That I like that. And then
And speaking of dinner, I haven't ate dinner yet, so
okay, well
we're
gonna let you get
go.
going.
Okay.
And then maybe we'll finish on this note. If you go to Cheesecake Factory, you're getting cheesecake for dessert, right?
oh yeah.
What?
Heck yeah.
This is the deal breaker, whether you get an abrupt hang up or not. No.
Okay.
What is the cheesecake of choice for dessert?
I really like the Oreo one.
All right.
All right.
All right. You pass. I'm a
Okay.
cherry cheesecake fan, but the Oreo is pretty damn delicious there as well.
Yeah, it is.
All right, Catrina. Well, we thank you for the insights and really the catch up that we've been needing from you anyway. So perfectly timed for this great win. Please share any final thoughts, sponsor shout outs, love, appreciation, anything you have for anyone. Go ahead and give it to everybody.
No, just thanks to everyone who follows me through the ups and downs on tour, and I really appreciate all the support, and thank you guys for having me, and hopefully this will be the first of many this year.
I hope so.
Let's hope
All
so.
right.
And you want to thank Prodigy and all your sponsors.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. Yes.
Of course. All right. Those are already a given. All right, Catrina. Well, thank you for joining us. I look forward to seeing you again. I think it might be a few weeks, but worst case scenario, I'll probably see you at least by GBO, if
maybe?
not sooner. So good luck.
Awesome.
Good luck to you in Austin, and hopefully there's more Cheesecake Factory in your future.
Heck yeah. Guys,
All
have
right.
a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
Enjoy dinner.
See ya. All right. Katrina Allen, like I said, overdue, but yet perfectly timed to have her.
I know. And I if she watches this, which she probably won't, but I will apologize for taking so long to get her on, because I did want to talk to her about some of the new upcoming Prodigy releases that are coming out. I know they've got a couple Max drivers, and was going to ask if what she was looking forward to see new stuff in her bag, possibly. But
Well,
we'll get that.
she'll have to win again.
When she wins again, we'll bring her back on, and we'll be able to
Probably won't
talk
be long at this
actual
rate.
Prodigy stuff. No, the way she's playing, she's been a very solid player this year. Last year, I know she had her ups and downs, but this year so far, I think we're starting to see that Catrina of old. Not
just
saying
call
she's
her
old.
old?
Nope. Caught you before you were going there. Not saying she's old.
The 2014
the
Catrina, for instance,
2014
or
yeah.
or yeah. I mean, I think of that as the year she won. Obviously, she's always been a contender. It's like you cannot. We've seen Paige Pierce go on these runs, and of course have phenomenal seasons, either starts or overall seasons. But right there, always either just a step ahead or just a step behind Catrina is always in that conversation, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. The one other piece of clarification, someone I think pointed out on the board, yes, Vanessa Van Dyken being the other woman, we'll say, that I'm looking at least in the top 10 even, that had any kind of a sponsor shift this year. She also had gone from Prodigy Disc over to Discraft. So she's another FPO player. I know I called out Sarah Holcomb earlier, and Vanessa would be in that category as well. And the way I watch Vanessa play at Vegas and a little bit at Memorial, it seems like she's adjusting quite fine as well. So some excited to see her year and season play out.
Well, I mean, we talked a little bit about where the FPO can really excel and pick up strokes is inside the circle. But honestly, if you're looking at the stats from Waco, and maybe Waco is unique, the top 4 Circle 1X putting, 8th, 17th, 14th, and 19th
is where they finished.
So the top 4, Ellen Widboom, who was 78% C1X, and I'm reusing that because that's no
longer. Are we talking
10.
Prodigy Disc? C1X?
No, I believe that's just Mania.
I don't know. I'm making stuff up.
Alexis, 75%. Kona, 71%. Brianna, 65%. I mean, they barely cracked. I mean, Ellen cracked the top 10, but the rest of them didn't. So I don't.
So what are you saying?
What I'm saying is that I don't know if for the FPO, Circle 1X is really the place where we're going to see these women pick up strokes.
I disagree completely.
I think you clearly
you show
can.
up with a 95% C1X putting percentage, and you probably just shot up 10 or 12 places,
assuming you can get into the circle. Because that's what I think. That's what this particular event is showing. And maybe Waco's unique that they couldn't get a lot of them. It seems like couldn't get to that position. What we saw is Catrina led in Circle 1 regulation and Circle 2 regulation. She was driving her way to the win and not putting her way to the win. Now, she obviously did fine in putting. She was 5th, but I think it's getting off the tee. And I think we've seen that with the men as well, that primarily if you want to win, you need to get off the tee well. And putting clearly is important, but you need to give yourself those opportunities.
Okay, well,
and we're not stats people, so we can argue all night. We'll let the smarter people talk about that.
Yeah.
You want stats, you can go to UDisc or Dixon.
Bar graphs on your damn screen. I don't need to hear anymore.
Hey,
we've already overextended ourselves by pulling that up. But of course, as always, our friends, as I love to call them, over at UDisc, Matt and Josh and Daniel, the whole crew, and then some, just doing a great job. So I think of someone like yourself who maybe had either limited access to the internet or data or whatever, or I'm selling Girl Scout cookies but can't necessarily sit and watch. When you check in UDisc, almost everything's right there for you. Or the story is you can construct it a little differently, but the story is all right there. And if you look into the numbers and you look in the statistics, you can piece together that entire round on all sides. And that's all thanks to good old UDisc. I love it. It's awesome. So thank you to them. All right.
Do we want to dive a little bit into the Disc Golf Pro Tour media?
Certainly. I think that seems now
appropriate. I know, like I said, we had talked to Steve a little bit, and he had said that they are working diligently to get the post-production out. They're hoping to have most of it. I believe they want to release it all at once, is what he had said.
Okay.
So we're hopefully going to see that tomorrow. But
I'll just follow that up and interject. I'm interested to see, and that's not something that's offered often, because normally we're talking about next day, and we're talking about editing and going, edit, go, myself included, everyone, when you're usually looking at that. I'm in a position, for instance, with something like the memorial footage I have, which is edited and doesn't have commentary, but it's fully edited. Thailand footage. I'm curious to see, and I don't know if it's a perfect test case, I'm curious to see how I don't want to say onslaught, but just the floodgate open of all of this media, if that impacts any kind of viewership. And I don't know if this is a good test considering, there was Jomez that was released and there was live. But I'll ask this question, and I'll get a little selfish for a moment and say, I have 3 rounds of Thailand. We'll use that as an example. I have 3 complete rounds of Thailand, front and back, 11 holes per half. So 66 holes. Is that the math? 66 holes of Thailand footage. Let's say it's all done, it's all edited, it's all commentated, everything's ready. It would be interesting to drop all 6 of those videos, 3 rounds front and back, at once.
I think if you have them, you should do that. Now, I understand pushing out one day at a time. When you do it one day at a time, that makes sense. But if for an event that has already fallen behind, so to speak, the current, like your Thailand event or like the Pro Tour Waco or Memorial, I would rather see it all at once, because there's no point in spacing them out where it's like, ooh, okay, I got the first round in. I want to get that second round in. I can't wait for tomorrow. No, drop it. Like, if you're going to have these people that are now attentive for your product, just give it to them Netflix style.
Okay.
They can binge it.
It's an interesting. We are rarely faced with that situation, because again, it's typically like one day is the footage, and then you're filming the next day, and then it releases, and it's always on a 1-day delay. In this particular instance, I'll be interested to see how the Disc Golf Pro Tours footage does, and then maybe that's something that I attempt on my end as well. So so look for that type of maybe that game plan. And it's interesting. Somebody on our board just said a moment ago something about it's days after a live event. I'm not going to watch it. Okay, so the clarifier for me there was a live event. Had it not been live, then maybe you would have said something differently there, Ken. But let's backtrack for a moment then to what you had said a little earlier about delaying, but the potential of delaying all post-production, and you're definitely going to get a lot of people ticked off.
Yeah.
But you've talked about this in years past. We've talked about it on a live side. But explain what you mean when you say you'd like to potentially see post-production footage delayed further.
I'm not. Here's caveat. I'm not saying I'd like to. I'm not saying I'd like to. I said I think that it is acceptable. If you have an acceptable live product, then I don't see the requirement of having next day coverage. And I say that because people can go through the YouTube live. I hear that all the time, like, I haven't got time for 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
There's a skip button on YouTube.
Sure.
People do it all the time. They'll come into a sporting event an hour and a half late and then fast forward through commercials to catch up to watch the end live. Now, and I understand I'm in the minority here, because as much as awesome as Jomez and the post-production guys are, for me personally, again, it's one of the reasons why we're doing SmashBoxx. Like, sports is better live. If it's not live, it's stats to me. It's visual stats. Like, cool. Yes, I know Paul hit a birdie here. Or awesome. There's just not the suspense that it has. And so my thought process on it is, if you have a live product that has commercials and all this other stuff in it, people can go and watch that. And the post-production is more of a let's get this for posterity's sake. Because nobody's going to want to go through in a year and watch a 3-hour version, or 3 years or 6 years. That's when the condensed version makes most sense to me. Like, cool. But for the next day, I have no problem going through a live product and then watching it at 1.5 speed, or clicking through some skip buttons to go through some of the walking or dead portions of the event. And I think if you can get it out next day, great. That's awesome. But you don't kill your team doing it. Don't stress, if you're going to put out a poor product or a substandard product. Don't bother. And on top of that, you're creating more value for your sponsors in live that in theory should be also probably in your post. I would hope that maybe you're bundling those type of sales, but that's on a whole nother business back end. You're creating more value because people are going to go through it. Even if they skip through it, you can skip through a commercial on TV. You're still getting, someone's still getting paid for that. And again, I know people are going to be screaming like, no, this is Steve Dodge set an expectation, which is to me was the problem. That, hey, and I know he wants to have next day coverage.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying is that if you have to take a step back and say that guess what? We overshot. We thought we could do live. We thought we could do next day. We had all these grand schemes, and we can't do it. Take a step back. Do it right. And if it takes you a couple extra days, it takes you a couple extra days. There is a worthy product that someone can go out and watch. Is it a slightly more pain in the ass? 100%. But it's there.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's my philosophy. Like, I get it. I 100% get it. Expectations were not met. We said that 1,000 times. And it is unfortunate, and I know they're striving to do their best. But
well, and I not just specific to the Pro Tour and this year's strategy. I guess I would generically say to you,
any live event.
Yeah,
whether
generically
it's
say to you right now that if you could have, is it druthers? Is that the fancy word?
Druthers, maybe.
If you could draw up a perfect scenario, let's say you were running a tour and you were in charge of the media, all media. What you're saying is, if there was a 3-round tournament, you would love to have lead card, and maybe we'll call it chase card, lead and chase cards live.
Mm-hmm.
We'll just go ahead and say MPO, FPO. So lead and chase cards live. And then you wouldn't want, or you would be okay with, or demand, or whatever. It's your gig.
My gig.
You would demand that the post-production coverage gets released when? What day? If the tournament takes place Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you would say, okay, post-production comes out on what day?
What I would like to do is drop all 3 rounds at once on Tuesday.
Oh, okay, all 3 rounds.
Just
Tuesday.
all at once. Have the editing done, and then on Tuesday, boom, you drop all 3 rounds and say, there you go, people. Here is your post-production stuff. I've given my team, a couple extra days to get everything perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I've given them, they can do everything they need. And I understand there are people who are going to scream about spoilers. There are going to be people who are going to scream. To me, personally, I don't care.
Yeah.
Because
your team and your event was broadcast live.
Yep.
Therefore,
and
spoilers are no longer a concern.
Correct.
I can get behind that.
That would be my big deal. I would want them all dropped at once on Tuesday.
Okay.
Now, and again, Jomez has set a standard for the quality and the next day, all day, all that fun stuff. We're spoiled, and it's a great thing to have. But I think if you started this trend and said, okay, this is what we're going to do, in a year, it's the expectation.
It becomes the new norm.
It becomes the new norm. And if we could, again, if you could have a team to do next day coverage and not stress out or kill your team, then I'm cool with that. I have no problem with next day coverage. I think it's a great option. I'm just saying I don't personally think it's like so needed. Like people are screaming like, I can't believe the next day coverage isn't out.
Wow.
And again, the reason why people are partially doing that is because of the expectations that were set. If those expectations weren't ever put out there, then we would be having a different conversation.
Yeah, and that's why, like I said, I set it up and said,
and the scenario.
If you were running your own tour with all your own money and had every decision could be made by you, you would do live Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then have all post-production rounds of those 3 rounds all release on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I just want to clarify it for the world, like how you envision it. And that's not second guessing or claiming what Steve or anyone else should be doing. And I'm asking what you would be doing.
There's a lot of extra things I'd want to do as well. I would want to kind of like what the PDGA is doing with their nightly recaps. I'd want a nightly recap as well, saying, oh, guess what? We saw Paige Bjorkis surging from the 3rd card up to the 2nd card. Paige Pierce continued her domination, blah, blah, blah. You'd have a whole, 8-minute piece
Sure.
every night. You would have, highlight clips going out to social media for similar to what Jomez is doing with with Simon's throw and with Paul's hole 18 throw and all these things. You would have all of that, but that requires a dedicated crew that costs a lot of money. And so in my dream world, that's how you do it. But again, we're not living in Johnny's dream world.
No, but I wanted to clarify, and
Mhm.
and understandably on the board, a regular Maker's Telemark says I couldn't disagree with Johnny V more
Yeah.
on this one, which is
That's-
yeah, exactly. I mean, expectations have been set. There's been a standard that's been kind of set and then accepted. And it's, to me, it is all about that perspective of, are you a diehard, watch it the next day kind of person? Do you watch it live and then get around to watching post-production at some point? Everyone's a little bit different on that spectrum. And we've beat to death the whole idea of just overall quality. Live is a long way away from being, of course, the same quality as
Yeah,
post-production.
we're years
but
away from that.
there's a reason they call it post. 'Cause you can, do things later. So we're simply not there yet. So,
But I mean, hopefully, what we'll see is, going back to the Disc Golf Pro Tour. Hopefully, what we'll see tomorrow is, or
in the next day or two,
the next day or two, a good portion of the post-production stuff released, so that if you are somehow still waiting not to find out what happened, you can watch it. But I mean, it is. They have right now a lot more issues that they need to clean up, to me, than post-production. Like, that is one of the things, from my understanding, and I didn't get a chance to watch a lot of the live. I watched a little bit on Thursday. It looks like they had some issues with graphics. They had some audio issues that Skype had, it sounded like Skype had messed up on them. And with someone new doing the switching, I think they were without some of the normal tools that have been provided in the past. There's a learning curve there. And so they need to get over that hurdle as well as their post-production stuff.
Yeah, and with someone switching the show, this was really, in fact, the first show on the Pro Tour since its inception that wasn't switched by you. And just that, I mean, not only did we know they were using slightly different software, which isn't necessarily relevant.
Yeah.
You have your model, you have your workflow, you have ways to bring down our podcast for 15 minutes at a time.
That's right. If there's someone that can bring down a show, it's me. I do it with style.
In all seriousness, you have your ways to do things. They had theirs, and there's some things that they maybe weren't necessarily prepared for, or not even just prepared for, but possibly didn't have the skill set or the knowledge in which you've done for so many years. So
or the extra hands. I mean,
that too.
I have done a lot of the switching. I've done all the switching, but I've also had Gary DeVio assisting. In the past, he's done graphics for me. This past event at the Memorial, he was cutting in all the second card stuff and feeding it to me. So it's, it is as great as my workflow is now, I still require a second set of hands. And otherwise, even I can't do it all. There's
an understatement.
Tell me about it. But ultimately, and again, I don't know the workflow of anything that happened before,
Sure,
or here at Waco, but
it's fair to say. I don't know if it's you can say it's fair to say and then say something objectively, but it's fair to say there were challenges, legitimate challenges. I don't. Steve is not fooling himself or anyone else to say that there were some challenges. He felt certainly, and I think I read a little earlier when he talked about some of that reaction cam and incorporating that. There were a few, upgrades, and then there were definitely some significant challenges and/or steps back that might have been taking. And it was weird. It's funny what we take for granted in seeing the whole information, or seeing scorecard information, or seeing player information, seeing a lot of those graphics that once they're gone, it's like, whoa, wait, not only does the screen feel naked, but you truly feel a little more lost as to what's going on. And I know I certainly felt that way sometimes.
I think there's a style or to be supported with some minimal graphics, but you need some. I mean, to me, the bare necessities are a whole bug. And if you just had a whole bug, that's one thing. And then the occasional score. Like lately, we've been putting the score bar at the bottom, so it's always there. You know, coming up with at the Memorial, we did basically a top 10 for every single hole. At the end of every hole, you know, you saw it pan to the basket, freeze frame, show the scoreboard, let the cameraman run to where he's going, and then come back. That's great, but even if that wasn't the case, I think a minimum you need is a score bar. And I know you had said that we had talked about earlier that on the DGPT.TV page, they had actual commercials in where you guys were hearing those beeps. Those are audible signals to a specific company that will automatically insert commercials into those spots. I will be curious to go back and look because I would love to watch that.
Yeah, and that was something I didn't know until Steve had mentioned it tonight, that on another version, essentially another stream, those were being correctly inserted or served up. And those are outside of disc golf, correct?
Yes,
those commercials?
My understanding is, so what you guys saw, I believe, because it's the same thing I think I saw on Thursday, was the Fox Bat commercial that like it was that commercial where it slid together and kind of pieced, and then you'd hear a beep. I believe those were replaced by more or less generic commercials, like whether it's from Ford, Nike, whatever. Those are commercials that will then be taken and monetized. So they're not just your standard disc golf company commercial. It's a different platform, I believe, is how that works. And you can't. I don't think you can do that on YouTube, which is why we saw that. Why he said it was on the DGP TV, but I don't know if that was broadcast or talked about by anywhere.
Well, I know if you go to the site, if I believe it's DGP, maybe it is DGP.TV. When you go out there, it provided a what's the term? A screen. It provided a feed. Sorry, it provided the feed, and I at one point was watching it, and I was like, okay, this feed doesn't there was no chat, and I thought literally YouTube was being fed to that page, and obviously, as I've now learned, it was not just a copy of the YouTube feed coming in. It was essentially an entirely different stream that was brought to you that had certain things feeding into it. So, interesting to learn that as I went on even tonight. And I was like, and me personally, I think like a lot of people, being part of the chat or being part of the community is what I feel like you were missing out on DGPT.TV. I feel like I was missing out, and I got a little frustrated because I was seeing the thing, but I was like, okay, where do I click? Why isn't this bringing me to YouTube? It's because it wasn't on YouTube, and again, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it's a whole separate feed. It's probably like JW Player or something is what's in the back end. But we'll let that. I guess we'll roll right into our next conversation.
Before we do that,
okay.
I know you're going, but before we do that, how funny is it that either it's people tonight or people during this weekend, I hate to use the word complaining, but we're inquiring and almost concerned or complaining, all of those. They inquired, they complained, and they were concerned about seeing commercials. They're like, where's the commercials? and I remember posting, like, look at monster we've created. We now have people worried about and or asking for disc golf commercials. Like, how far of a stretch is that from the last 5 years when we started? When people are like, oh my God, a commercial? Why am I watching commercials? Now people are like, well, where are they? Why aren't the sponsors getting their recognition? How are they paying for this? Like, some people were genuinely concerned. How funny is that?
That's great. And I think we're getting to a place now where we have a happy medium on the number of commercials, where we saw early where we had a lot of time we had to fill because we didn't have a booth that we could go to. We didn't have those things. And we've been chipping away at having a quote unquote almost a real style broadcast where we have some commentators in a booth that we can cut to and talk about and talk with. And now it's getting to the point where people are screaming, I don't want to see these people anymore. Give me a commercial or whatever. And I completely understand it. If again, in John's fantasy world, we'd have, 2 or 3 crews of me and Gary cutting different holes together and feeding them to one place where I could feed in just shot after shot after shot. We don't have that yet because you got to assume basically for every 4 cameras, you need 2 more. You need another set. So basically, Gary and I can cover 4 cameras. So if the minute you add someone else other than that, you need to add another person or even another 2 people. So it becomes kind of this exponential growth where there's levels you have to hit. So we're getting to that point where now we can reduce the number of commercials and show them during putouts where we're not using them to fill time, which is where we have been in the past. So it's just a funny change and an interesting evolution that we're coming to.
Okay. Well, speaking of, I forgot what word you just used, but it was going to segue into the idea of shutting people up. A couple of strategies were employed this weekend.
I was confused.
Yeah. So at one point, and maybe Seth, I know, is on the board from the Pro Tour, it can clarify because I still don't know. First of all, I didn't even know this first option existed. There was some form of what was called, I believe it's called like a slow chat.
Yes.
That's not a rip on anyone that's out there. There was some form of a slow chat, which is that like an auto moderated chat of sorts, and that was used the very first day, if I recall.
No, what it's called slow mode.
Slow mode.
And what it does is, I believe there's a time limit between posting comments. So I can't post a comment and then go, oh, but I mean, even in non-slow mode, I think you only have so many before it tells you, okay, dude, we get the point.
Yeah.
But with slow mode, it's like 30 seconds between chats. And Seth on the board is saying he doesn't know how that was turned on.
Oh.
Clearly some sort of mistake that was happened with setting up the YouTube event, so to speak.
Maybe somebody thought we'd get more frames per second that way in slow mode.
more frames per second. So ultimately, slow mode just kind of it slows everything down so people can't whatever. And it again, I know it wasn't, but had that been a choice made, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, it prevents also things like spamming or
Yes.
or things of that nature, or somebody just hammering away, saying, turn off your mic, and then they copy and paste that 12 times or whatever the case might be. It prevents usually some form of annoyance to some degree, and it's almost like that, like a slow moderated chat. Well, that happened on one of the days, and I thought it was interesting. I don't think I was delayed at all as a moderator, and I think that was one thing we found out is anyone with a wrench was not delayed in any
look at
capacity.
me.
Yeah, I know. Ooh. However, on the second day,
A Friday morning.
on the Friday morning during the FPO round, there was first of all an announcement that said that the footage from the previous day was not going to be released. They were working on quality over necessarily getting it out right away, and they experienced a few challenges and bottlenecks. I get all of that. But then they also went ahead, they being the Disc Golf Pro Tour, and disabled the chat comments, disabled the entire chat board on YouTube.
Which I've said to a couple people offline, I think is the worst decision. I think it's a horrible decision.
Well, I think there's worse decisions in the world.
Yes. Okay, you're right. I think it's a bad decision.
Okay.
And I'll say that because one of the hurdles that we had back when we moved the Pro Tour off of SmashBoxx's page and put it strictly on the Disc Golf Pro Tour page, YouTube page. One of the discussions we had was, well, I like having it in 2 places because it creates 2 different chats. We have your Smashies, which are hardcore. They're the fans. They're our fans. They get alerted whenever we go live, whenever we crash a stream. They know about it. All that stuff. And they have their own little community. They know each other. They chat. They're the heart of your fan base.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, when we took that away from SmashBoxx and moved it over to the Pro Tour, it hurt me a little bit because I was like, well, those are our fans. It stinks. But I understand Steve's bigger picture. And so, then it was on the Pro Tour. Both chats kind of merged. And you have a community. Now, when you take that away from somebody, I feel like you're hurting your biggest fans. And I understand you're also hurting people who are trolling, and you just assume that your fans will stick with you. But the chat it's a gathering place for a lot of people that want to sit and watch. And the people that are going to sit and chat are going to be some of your biggest fans. And I felt that taking that away was a detriment to the viewing experience. Now I understand why it was done. Obviously, the note that came out as far as keeping things positive for the commentators and things like that. I understand the principle. I didn't agree with the decision.
Yeah, I all I can say is yes to that. I saw the post. I thought it was an interesting decision, and clearly they reevaluated because later that afternoon, the chat was again enabled. It was available for the MPO round, and then it was also available during Sunday's 2 rounds of golf, the FPO and the MPO round. I feel like they were heavily moderated and watched, which I'm good with. I think that could or should and needs to be done, and so I'm totally good with that decision. But like you said, there's a sense of community, there's a sense of involvement. It's tough because what do you want that chat room or that chat option? What do you want it to provide? Is it for the viewers, or is it for, is it at all for the actual team and the production? What does that chat do? And then where can it or does it or doesn't it maybe sometimes go off the rails?
I treat the chat like I said, like a community, but also I was going through some of our YouTube settings earlier today, and I came upon the page where it shows you all the blocked people and all your moderators. And I couldn't believe how many moderators we have on our channel. I was like, wow, we've got like 30 different or like 35 different people that have wrenches. And that's great. Do? Yeah, we do. I haven't looked at the Pro Tour or anything like that. And all I think is like, those are the people that we have realized are extremely trustworthy. Not to say that you guys that don't have them aren't. But we have, there's some of the earliest ones, because I don't know if I've given a moderator wrench to anybody in a couple months. But those are some of the earliest ones that we knew. And those are the people that can really help tame a stream. They know your community. They know what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And I don't necessarily know if the Pro Tour has done that, have gone out. I think Smashbox has a wrench, which is funny because Smashbox does, but John doesn't.
I do.
You have a wrench. I know the U2 or the UDisc guys do. A couple Pro Tour people do. Obviously, Disc Golf Pro Tour people do, and Seth being one of them. But I don't know if a lot more. Dixon does from his time working with the Pro Tour. I feel like there needs to be a few more community members that can be trusted to handle that, because when you do run into people that are just spamming the word Jomez, like, you want to bring up Jomez in the chat to me, okay, that's fine. Talk about it. The repetition for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
At that point, I understand saying, okay, no, you're done.
You're not doing anyone a service
adding
at that
to
point.
The community at all. At that point, you're making a point, but you're not adding to anything. So I understand timing people out and blocking people for that type of behavior. A good community can self-moderate. And I think
to some degree, or have trusted self-moderators.
Correct. You have trusted moderators, and I hope we can kind of expand that, and maybe Seth can help do that when he is available to watch the chat. Mm-hmm. Find some people that you like. Okay, cool. This is a person we can trust that will help remove some of this or that, and I think that's a good step to have. And I'm not sure of anything. I hope we won't see the chat disabled in the future.
Well, I'm going to add in a few clarifications. This is live. This is exclusive, folks. I'm learning more information thanks to Seth from the Pro Tour, who's out there. Thank you, Seth, for being available and chiming in here with some pertinent details. He had posted here in the chat board tonight, just now, saying Nate Doss had asked us to turn off the chat the day before, and we opted not to. And I'm guessing he's talking about probably for Thursday's coverage. So on Friday they had done it, and then I said, was he watching the chat or why does he care? And later here Seth had clarified and said, yes, he was. He was tired of people railing on Val and the broadcast and there being no one to moderate it, which understandable, whether you're a husband or a brother or just a friend.
Yeah.
Anytime someone is fairly or unfairly getting, we'll say, blasted or whatever the case might be, or is being picked on, fairly or not, it's tough to read that. I think that's a very fair statement. But he had said that he was sick of I want to make sure I read this correctly. He was tired of people railing on Val and the broadcast and being no one to moderate it. And then Seth further clarified here, saying, on Friday morning, we had no one to moderate the chat post-announcement. By the afternoon, we had people lined up to moderate. So that's possibly why we saw it open up and for the chat to be available come that afternoon. And
yeah,
I love the idea. There has to be some moderators, who they might be and how you get them and when they're available. That's all, needs to be fleshed out. But there has to be some form of moderator because it goes off the rails and just gets vile and terrible and pointless and frustrating for everybody. And then it becomes, instead of this sense of community, it becomes, hey, whoever is the loudest with their keyboard can just overrule and bully the entire experience. And that's also terrible. And nobody likes that. And we've been challenged here on our show by a number of people, not any given one, but a number of people that said, oh, I said something in the chat and you guys censored it. Exact same concept.
Yeah.
Like we want an environment that is we can discuss hot items or hot topics or debated topics. Sometimes you can have an opinion, you can have a strong opinion, but if per our judgment or some of our moderators, if it crosses that line, then it's going to get censored or just possibly removed or banned or whatever. Fair or not, I think back to Adam Sandler from The Wedding Singer saying, well, we have the microphones and you don't. Like if you want to get really worked up about any given topic, start a podcast or put it on your Facebook wall and let it debate on your wall. Just because you may have a really great, insightful point, we may even agree with it, but that doesn't mean it's always the right time and place for that to happen. And we're trying to somewhat maintain a healthy balance here. And what we consider healthy balance may not be what you consider healthy balance. Unfortunately, there has to be some opinion and some discretion taken upon by us to do just that. So I'm kind of mixing overall thoughts and processes here, but they're very similar. And from the Pro Tour, now we could argue, well, the Pro Tour moderator said, well, if you say, the sky is green, we're gonna ban it or whatever. Like there has to be this happy medium and this middle ground that we coexist in.
Yeah, and from my understanding, from what I've heard online and just secondhand, was that the moderator was maybe a little aggressive with banning some things that were not even necessarily that critical, but that were constructive criticism that they were maybe being banned. And I think that comes with, again, learning the community, learning what should and shouldn't be there. And I hope that the Pro Tour takes this weekend as another learning experience, as I'm sure they will have a few of, and looks at it and goes, okay, cool. This is where we excelled. This is where we made some mistakes. I think we can move on, and we don't necessarily need a press release, hopefully, after every event, but that will. I have faith in Steve. I think we'll get there as a community and we'll make it work.
Yeah, we'll. It will. I guess to finish up that point. Be kind. Hopefully, be helpful. I mean, if you have to go out and spam that there's other videos to watch on my channel. No, but in all seriousness, just like a classic case in point is if you want to say, maybe express a little bit of annoyance or frustration, possibly, or disappointment. Oh, it really it sucks that we didn't get that angle. That we missed that shot. That's very different than saying, in all caps, bring back Jomez. This sucks. Like one is helpful, or is mildly constructive, and or one's not.
Yeah.
And for what it's worth, just as a quick side note, Ken, for the love of God, for the 10 billionth time, I understand we all love Jomez. They don't effing do live, okay? They don't do live.
But if they did,
I know. They do it great, and I'm not saying they wouldn't, but they currently don't. If you want to argue that you want Jomez for post, that's an argument. You can go, go on that hill, go die on that hill. I'm good with that. I am. That's a valid argument. But for the love of God, they don't do live. So just keep that in mind. And if they did, you're right, they would do it great, but they don't.
So, someone's asking if I'm going to work with the DGPT. I don't know. I've said it before. I think I said it online somewhere, is that I have, at this point, as of right now, this exact minute, I have no idea. There's been zero plans at this point. I'm sure we'll have some discussions and whatever, but Terry and I have also, like I said, we need to look at our schedule. We've made plans for things, and we'll get things sorted out. We'll figure something out. But at this point, anything's on the table and everything's off the table. Is that how it works? No?
It depends if you're a magician.
Yeah, good call.
Anyway. Yeah, one of my favorite, and I screen print it because this kind of summarizes, not to
Are we harping now at this point?
A little bit harping. I took a screenshot yesterday early on, and someone had said something along the, I really want to find it quickly if I can. Yeah. And I won't call them out by name. Honestly, I don't remember. The screenshot doesn't include which group it was in on Facebook. But someone had said, and I was going to make a post about it, and I didn't get around to it, UC effed up when he discontinued
I saw this.
what they had with Jomez Pro to go another direction. And someone said, are you talking about Steve Dodge? And he said, no. UC is the head of the Disc Golf Pro Tour that made the decision from what I heard. Come on. If you are going to bitch and moan and complain, get your people and your tours straight. Like, I love the fact that someone...
I'm going to blame Salient. Salient, you messed it up.
I mean, Steve maybe would like that right now if everyone was blaming UC.
That's true.
But for the God's sakes, people.
When I hear Steve call and he's talking with an accent, with a fake accent, then I'll know.
Gosh.
A bright side is a lot of people seem to enjoy Jeff Spring's commentary.
No surprise.
I think Jeff had a similar, maybe the first days when I watched, I would say I think he had an issue that, as I said, everybody has that first time, is filling a little bit of dead air. Need to slow it down a little bit. But I can't say for Friday and Saturday because I didn't really get a chance to watch, but I did notice that on Thursday. But my understanding is that he did a very good job from what I heard. So I'm very pleasantly not surprised.
Yeah, and as I just said,
oh yeah, and I did hear that the PDGA was getting some messages yelling at them too. So
same thing.
Just goes to show you.
Yeah, the Pro Tour is not the National Tour. The National Tour is not the World Tour, and so on and so forth.
World goes round and round.
Yeah, it would. Quick side note, and I'm going to throw this out there, and I have plenty of them, so I'm fully putting myself on blast
Opinions?
by saying this. No. Filler words, hiccups, crutches, all of those things. We all have them. I damn near
Absolutely
everyone has them. That's mine that I notice more than any now is the term or the phrase or the word specifically. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And it is so damn easy. And I think I've even said this before, maybe. I know I've said it to others. It's a word of affirmation, which are very easy to do, and in certain nonverbal and verbal cues and interaction, you should be having some form of confirmation or affirmation, active listening. I get all of that. It's also a word that's got a more than what, 2 or 3 or so syllables? 4 or 5? I don't know. I can't count. It's got a lot of syllables. So it sounds smart, and it's so easy to blurt out. I challenged myself years ago to get rid of that word because it is so damn easy to overuse. And I will challenge any and all other commentators. And again, I have plenty of other ones that I use, but absolutely is a word I would love to see go away.
I think I've told you this before as well. Perfectly. Is
That's
another
one I've certainly
is
said
another
plenty.
crutch one you used to hang
It's
on
easy
to.
to say. Yep.
That was a perfect drive. He laid up perfectly. And
Yeah.
It's one of those words, but if you go
Absolutely.
back and listen,
I was kidding. But
I
yeah.
know. If you go back and listen, everybody has them.
I think absolutely is possibly universal. There are all of us can fall victim to that one a lot.
Challenge yourself out there, community. Try to avoid the word absolutely.
It is far too easy. This is a quick side note. Another one that I don't think this happens with any in disc golf. I see this more, say, on talk shows and other interviews, usually maybe even things that get a little bit debated. I think one of the rudest and worst things that is said during an interaction with someone is when somebody says, listen, like you and I are talking about something. Usually might be when it's on the verge of either heated or confrontational or to drive home a point. You go on and on with something and I say, all right, listen, here's what happened last week. Like, I feel like it's a really rude word to say in the context that it's usually said. Like you're demanding, like, of course you're listening, jackass. But it's just one that really drives me crazy. And of course, celebrities, everybody uses it in a lot of different interviews. When it's being talked about, someone will say, listen, I don't know, that one drives me crazy. All right.
Okay.
We're going to go on. That one's been...
We've beat that dead horse.
Absolutely. All right. So media, anything else on, and people need to know and realize now we're in a different position from being part of the Pro Tour media, which we've been so actively involved with for all these years, to now it's not ours. It's not our baby. It's not something that we're doing. So still having these conversations about it are exactly what I'd like to continue to do. And I don't want anyone to think that we're not in positive regard or light of it. We're going to report on it. We're going to talk about it. And I feel like hopefully we're going to get more than just one side. There's the viewer side. There's Steve Dodge's, and there's everyone's side in between. I'd like to come at it from all the different angles, see things that we know from our experience that we could possibly share or shed light on. And then that's why every week for the last 3 weeks, I've asked Steve if he's had anything in particular that he wants to share with us, because I want it to be all correctly reported on and conveyed to the rest of you as we're kind of all experiencing this together. I know I made a post this weekend, like yourself, first Pro Tour I have not been at since the existence of the tour, and it was weird. It was very weird. To have a conversation even with Catrina, not seeing her throw a single shot live at all this weekend, and to not physically be on site, experience the atmosphere, whether it's in a trailer editing or whether it's on the course doing interviewing or filming or calling the shots. It felt very, very odd, but here we are.
Quick update. If you're in the Bend, Oregon area, Bevel Brewing is looking for part-time help right now. And possibly moving to full-time. Val just made a post saying...
I finally have a new job opportunity.
Yeah, part-time bartending position available.
Oh my... Well, okay. That would be fun.
It would be.
I would think you would want to know a little something about beer.
They do say if you're passionate about craft brewing.
That would certainly help. I couldn't tell you anything about IBUs.
I know none of that.
Or hops. Even though I've heard Nate and Val talk plenty about them, I certainly couldn't regurgitate any of the enzymes or things they've talked about in the mash tun process thing. Any of that stuff. But that does sound like a cool opportunity. if you are one of those types. Someone had sent me a message and set it on the board as well, and I apologize. I didn't look into it. I'll say the dude on the board says he sent me a message about Waco and wanted a verification on payouts. And maybe Seth is still on the board. I did not look into it. Someone had brought it to my attention and said, were the payouts all in line? And without looking, I'm going to assume they were. I would be blown away if somehow they weren't. But I did not run any numbers. I didn't do any math. I also don't know all of their numbers to do the math necessarily. I could do nothing more than speculate in a few instances. The Pro Tour, I believe, guarantees that there's going to be like 10,500 was the old one, and maybe now it's 11 or 13,000 added to a purse. Like, it's insane how much is guaranteed to be added. So maybe Seth is on the board, and he says
Seth went to bed.
Seth, wake up, listen. So I didn't look into it. I'm going to assume they were totally fine and legit. Maybe there was someone else that has some other insight that I don't. I don't know if TD, Ryan Draper, may even be out on the board or listening in. I know he consumes things, but I'll be the first to admit I did not look into it further. I'm going to guess everything was on the up and up and then some, but I guess that's one conversation to be had, maybe. Did you look into the payouts?
No.
Macbeth took home $3,060. Would you? This is so trivial. Would you love to see that rounded?
To what? 3,050 or right down to 3,000?
Or up to 3,100?
I don't care.
Okay.
Yeah, honestly.
I'd love to see it rounded. And why? Same reason I round the gas tank. Just would rather round the number.
I have no problem with anything. If it wants to be $3,060, if it wants to be $3,063.55.
Well, they don't put cents on the PDGAs.
I know, but I'm just saying, if that were the case, I don't care.
I'm assuming they went by some PDGA chart and then some, or the Pro Tour chart. I think the Pro Tour also works to make sure all the payouts are then correctly implemented. But earlier, David John gave a super chat. I think David John just gave another super chat.
Thank you, David John.
So thank
Much
you, David John. We
appreciated.
appreciate it. And then also thank you to Big Putt Bill Sherman.
As always.
Also a super chat a little bit earlier. So thank you to all of our super chatters here tonight.
I think we can wrap up the show for tonight. We can get in a little bit after show.
Maybe.
Do our Patreon giveaway. Once again, if you want to be
absolutely
a supporter of SmashBox TV and be entered into our weekly Patreon giveaway, you can do that at patreon.com/SmashBoxTV for as little as about a quarter a week. Yeah, you can be entered into our weekly prize drawing.
We'd like that. Well, we will call it here on regular show 239. It was great having Catrina Allen along with Dynamite Dana Vici giving us a little bit of the recap. Headed to Throw Down the Mountain. We'll talk about that in the after show, what we're going to see there, and what's in store. These next few weeks are the train's going to keep rolling. It may not be National or Pro Tour. The train's going to keep rolling.
And if you are one of our big Patreon supporters at the $10 clothing level, I did send out a message last week, and I'm waiting on a couple responses for people about T-shirt sizes.
Oh, get your T-shirt size in today.
I'd like to get those and get them shipped out by the end of the month.
There it is. All right, for Johnny V and Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, this has been Podcast 239. We'll see you in a few minutes when you join us for the after show. We'll see you then. You step inside the SmashBox.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the SmashBox TV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashBoxTV.
Hello and welcome to the SmashBoxxTV podcast 239.
After show.
There you go. You got it.
You're not joining in.
Show. Oh.
There we go.
Oh. Johnny V, Terry Miller, the disc golf guy. Little extra action here on the after show, as always. We appreciate you guys tuning in or sticking around or downloading yet another podcast, whatever it is that you do.
Woo!
And if you are here and live, as somewhere around 14,000 or so are doing.
Yeah, I have to assume that's in hundreds.
Yeah. YouTube just rounds to the nearest thousand.
Would you like to see
and
that
then
rounded
subtracts. Yeah. So thank you guys, as always. If you are with us here live on Tuesday night, we love to interact with you as you ask questions or correct us usually during the after show, and we grab that all from the YouTube chat. Should we disable it? Would we have an after show at that point?
Well, we could still have an after show.
It wouldn't be nearly as much fun.
No, it wouldn't be nearly as fun at all.
So in the regular show, we talked a little bit about how there's a slow mode. We should try the slow mode.
No.
See what that does.
We're slow enough, you and I.
I say we just randomly, how about this? How about we randomly ban people that seem like they shouldn't get banned? We just randomly ban comments. How's that?
No.
Ban roulette.
Ooh, there's a fun game.
All right. Well, here we are.
Sorry, Big Putt Bill, you were banned.
Yep. There
Try again
you
later.
Go. After show action may or may not include disc golf as we move into yet. Wow. We have a 3-week window before we get to the next Pro Tour stop, I believe it is.
Jonesboro, yes.
Yes, to the next Pro Tour stop. National Tour doesn't pick back up all the way until the glass blown,
which is in
the end of April.
End of April. I was going to say.
So we have a little over a month before that. There's a lot of our players we talked about in Texas for 1 or 2 or 3 events that are taking place. And then I'm not going to see most of you. My efforts are going to be spread out and in Florida for the next few weeks. So Throwdown on the Mountain is coming up this weekend. I believe Jomez is planning on being there and covering it. I will also be there to cover some of the action. Looking forward to that. And then I believe I'm going to see some people in both Jacksonville and possibly Tallahassee as well. So a little fabulous Florida tour, if I do say so myself. Should be exciting. With a little mixture, a little pit stop in Disney World. Making that return. It's been 28 years, roughly.
I've never been.
Yeah, you just go on the they just bring the Disney to you on a cruise.
I was supposed to go to Disney World, and it didn't happen.
Well, that's you were naughty.
No. Southwest was naughty and canceled my flight.
Those damn 737 MAX 8 jets
had nothing to do with that. I asked.
Okay.
So obviously there was the big news about grounding the jets, and the very next day I show up to Southwest's kiosk at 5 in the morning with my family, and I go to hit my app, and I log into the app, my Southwest app, to scan, make sure I got my confirmation number to get my tickets, because the plan was, as I think everyone knew, wake up early on Thursday, get to Florida by about 10:30, get to Disney by noon, and spend the day at Disney World.
Which particular place?
Magic Kingdom we were going to go to.
Okay.
I bought tickets months ago, had all the Fast Pass stuff at certain times, all that fun stuff. I get to the kiosk, hit the Southwest app, and there's a big red thing at the top, and it says, your flight has been canceled. And I was like, that can't be right. That app must be wrong.
Yeah, they usually are.
Clearly. And so I was like, oh, that's not good. So I walk up to the front desk, and I say, excuse me, ma'am, I got a problem. I'm supposed to be in Florida, I'm going to Disney World, and my flight says it was canceled. She's like, oh, yes, we notified you of that sometime last night. I was like, about when? She's like, sometime between 10:30 and 11. It's like, oh, so I have to wake up at 4 a.m., and I was in bed by then. She's like,
well, that's your first mistake.
She's like, well, you should probably set your alerts to be your phone number so that in case it happens. And I'm thinking, I probably would have muted my phone.
Yeah.
Like, I have to get my family up, my 9 and 7-year-old up at 4 in the morning. And I said, well, I've got tickets to Disney today. literally today. And she's like, ooh, yeah, you're not making it there. She's like, I don't even know if we can get you to Florida today. And I was like, really? She's like, yeah, we're super booked up because of the Arctic bomb or whatever that happened in the Midwest. It backed some things up, and we had a plane and this and that. So she talks to somebody, and she comes back. She's like, okay, I got something for you. I can get you to Florida. And mind, this is 5 a.m. She's like, but you're not getting there until 6 p.m. tonight. And I said, sold. I said, I'll take it, whatever it is. She's like, okay, so you're flying to Baltimore. And from Baltimore, you're going to fly down to Fort Lauderdale, which is at the tip of Florida. And then you're going to lay over there and then fly up to Orlando. And you're going to get there by about 6:30. And I was very disappointed. So thankfully I called Disney and I said, hey, here's the situation.
You talked to Mickey or Minnie?
Actually talked to Goofy.
Wow.
I went right to Goofy.
Good. He's probably got all the answers.
He does. And they said, well, we don't give refunds. And I said, and this is when I pulled wow, that's really, I'm just going there for a day. And then I'm going on your Disney cruise for the second time.
Ooh, laid it on thick.
Laid it on thick. And she was like,
did you say listen?
No, I did not say listen. And I said it would be great if I could, if I could be refunded my money. She's like, well, we can do this as a one-time thing. And I kind of think, well, maybe their one-time thing isn't so much one time. It's probably just the shtick they give people. Mm-hmm. I was fully expecting, honestly, some Disney credits. The good thing, though, is Southwest felt bad and gave my family 4 $200 vouchers, one for each of us, for the inconvenience. But I spent the entire day in different airports throughout the eastern side of the United States. And it was a big pain in the butt. But thankfully, we were able to get to our Econo Lodge, where I had the creepiest Uber driver ever.
Sweet.
Get in, call Uber when we get there. Like, okay, let's just get to our hotel. We're tired. Oh, gosh.
This is from the airport?
This is from the airport in Orlando.
Orlando Airport. Okay.
We get in to his car. He pulls up, doesn't say a thing. Pops the trunk. I put the stuff in there, close the trunk. My family sits in the back. It is my son, my 9-year-old son, my 7-year-old daughter, and my wife. I sit in the front seat. He gets in. He doesn't say anything, and he just drives. He's got the app up there. I look at the app. It's going to the right place. Econo Lodge, Airport, Orlando. It's about a 10-minute drive.
Let me guess. I don't know the story, and I'm going to guess. He takes you on a route?
No. Not even close.
Okay. Go on.
I said creepy, not bad. I had that happen to me in Orlando where a guy went the wrong way and we.
Well, it seems like there's a theme of Orlando Uber drivers, and I've heard it from you, and I've heard it from a few others that they've been given a runaround specifically in Orlando. So that's where I was going to guess that. But go on.
We're about 3/4 of the way there, and our driver has not said a single word to it, the entire family, and I'm kind of okay with that because sometimes I don't really care about talking. He looks in his rearview mirror, and the only question he asks is, "How old is your daughter?"
Wow.
I didn't know how to answer. And I just said, she's 7 years old. That was it. Nothing more than that.
That is
the creepiest. So we pull up to we pull up to the Clarion Hotel because apparently the Econo Lodge is like behind the Clarion. And I had no clue. So I'm just sitting there in the car looking at my map. I'm like, this isn't our hotel. And he's silent. Doesn't say anything. I'm kind of like, well, where is and I say, oh, it's like kind of around the corner. Like, I'd say a half a block's walk. Up one way, up the other. And all I'm thinking is like, okay, dude, can you drive us around the corner? And I'm just about to get out of the car, and I stop. And I go back in the car. I turn around to my family. I say, Sarah, my wife, can you? Why don't you get the kids out? I'm going to check the map. Because there's no way I'm getting out of that car until my family gets out of that car. It was we took our stuff and we walked around the corner where we found the Econo Lodge and drove away and all was good. But all I kept thinking about the entire time was, what a creeper. The guy was probably in his 50s. Now if you ask, How old are your kids? Are you going to Disney? You add anything to that sentence, I'm perfectly fine with that.
Sure.
Not just, how old is your daughter? My beautiful little 7-year-old daughter. It was, I just felt dirty. I just wanted to get out of that car at that point.
Yeah.
And I just shook my head, and I turned to my wife and I go, what was it? She's like, I have no idea. She's like, but it was weird. I'm like, good, it wasn't just me.
No, that definitely is strange.
Wow. That
Creepy,
was
strange, all of the above.
all the above. So
Okay.
that was my experience getting to my hotel.
Wow. And then you're on a cruise for Friday. You boarded?
We boarded Friday morning. We came back Monday morning. If you haven't done a Disney cruise, I think I talked about this 2 years ago. Go ahead and make the effort. It's a little more expensive than your average cruise, but I mean, you're talking all the food you can eat. Because I was thinking of the logistics on turning over a ship like that in 4 hours, which is what they do.
Mm-hmm.
They dock Monday
when they don't run into a dock.
Yeah, when they don't run into a dock. And just because we would order something, and we went with 4 other families. So we had 2 big tables, 1 adult table, 1 kid table. And I'd look at the menu and be like, do I want like the tenderloin pork or maybe the chicken? I'm like, I'll go with this. I get my plate, I get 1 bite, and the waiter will come. He's like, oh, hey, here's another one. The other one you can try. I think they just have so much food they have to go through and get rid of that and part of it is obviously they're looking for tips and all that other stuff. They load on the food, and it is phenomenal. The ship is immaculate. Everybody that's on it is just extremely friendly. There's always something to do. You get to stop in the Bahamas. Our one went to the Bahamas, into the Disney private island, Castaway Key, and snorkeling and all the other fun stuff. It's great. But
are you going next year?
No, we did go 2 years ago, but we did not sign up for 2 more years. We were actually thinking we'd like to try maybe something different. If we do go on another cruise, it won't be that same one. It would maybe be like an Alaskan cruise, but we're talking about maybe just renting
your own cruise ship,
our own cruise ship, and running it. No, we're talking about maybe renting something down in Florida or North Carolina area and just let the kids swim, because that's really what they really want to do, is just swim a lot. But they've got live plays on it. I saw Captain Marvel on it on the boat. They have free first run movies that you can see, and I thought Captain Marvel was just okay. It wasn't great. There was no.
Is that the new one?
That's the brand new one, yeah.
And they had it where?
On the boat.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So without spoiling it, I don't know how much longer that's legitimate to say on
been out for
in
2
movies.
weeks.
Yeah.
No, you wouldn't like it.
No, I assume that. But what I can say is, from what I've picked up, it seems as if no one likes it.
So here's the thing. There's a huge contingent of people that really dislike it because they're trolls. Okay. And it's Marvel's first female-led superhero movie. And a lot of the movie is, or there's a theme in the movie and a message that's, hey, I'm a girl, I can be powerful too. I can stand up for myself. Which, fine, that's a great message. Love it. Awesome. That's not why I didn't particularly love the movie. I thought it was good. It was well done. I just felt there were very little stakes in the movie. Like the Captain Marvel it's like the problem with Superman. Superman's not dying. Like there's nothing there's almost no drama to it, because there's like no, it's like, all right, well, Captain Marvel doesn't have a weakness. At least Superman has kryptonite. I didn't see any Captain Marvel's problem, but I don't know enough about the comics to find out if there is like some sort of weird thing. So, but ultimately the movie was enjoyable, typical, I'll rank it right in the middle of all the other Marvel movies. It's not great. It's not bad. It was just okay. It was nice because I could see it for free.
Yeah, I mean, right there.
Right on the boat.
I mean, the fact that at the theater right now is going to run you $10, $12, $14 just to get in per person.
I know. So that was like 20. Well, my whole family went. So it was 4 of us. We took I think we saw like a 3:30 showing of it or something.
Oh, wait, you went during the day?
We did go during the day because our nights are full. We have all sorts of stuff to do at night.
No.
And this was a perfect time because it was before dinner. It was after we just had gone swimming all day. So the whole family was just ready for a little bit of a break. I also read an entire book on my cruise. I got to sit and just have a few drinks, and I read a book called The Warded Man, another like a fantasy type novel.
Like WARDED.
Yeah. Which I enjoyed quite a bit, and I found out there's like a buddy of mine gave me the book. I mean, I found out now there's like 4 more in the series, so I'm going to probably go through and read those. If you like fantasy type stuff, The Warded Man, or The Painted Man, I think is another name for it.
Quite magical. How many...
JC O'Brien says, thank you, it wasn't very good. I didn't say it wasn't very good. It just wasn't great. It was just like decent. It was decent popcorn movie. Kind of like, you look at it and you're like, oh, okay. Like, that was all right. I think they could do some good things in the future with her. I just need to have some, there has to be some sort of, the superhero, every good superhero has some sort of weakness. That's kind of the whole point of being a superhero. You know, Batman, you take away his bat tools, and Superman has kryptonite. You know, the Hulk has Bruce Banner, and there's just always something. It didn't feel like Captain Marvel had that. I was like, okay, cool. She can destroy anything she wants whenever she wants. So we're gonna find out.
So your wife's a knitter.
She is. She did.
What did she complete on this?
Not a lot.
Wow. Because I feel like
we were
with that much.
Time.
I know you guys. I know you. I mean, I think about the airport time. I think about some of the other time.
She did do a little bit of knitting in the airport.
She didn't get any piece completed.
No, all she came
I'm
home.
disappointed.
All she came home with was an ear infection and some sort of congestion that she went to the doctor for this morning.
Oh,
she was. I don't know if I've ever seen my wife so miserable as flying yesterday on our direct flight home, because she was so. My son was sick way earlier in the week, thankfully before the trip, but I think whatever he had, he passed on to her and I, because I was a little congested. But then my wife coming home, like, she was so congested, and then landing that plane, she was like holding her ears and her nose. I don't know how she was doing it, but she was almost in tears because the pressure in her head. And so she went this morning and got a bunch of, I don't know, some medication that's supposedly going to make her better in 5 days. But it wasn't. It was not enjoyable for her on the way home. She did fight through the cold during the days, and she was very, very happy and tolerable. It was just that last day where she couldn't do it anymore.
All right. Well, I'd love to know if anyone out on our board has been on said Disney cruises. I'd love to know if anyone else has had similar good experiences or not so good. And even if you haven't been on a Disney cruise, I know Beth was out there. Shout out to Minnesota Disc Golf. Beth was saying that Alaska in, I think she said October or September is the way to go. But I'd love to know what people had for responses when they've been on any form of a cruise out there. I will read a few more comments from the board that talk about women tend to be obese. What? I don't know what that's talking about. Even in populations where children starve. Yeah, David John was clearly listening to the Joe Rogan podcast today. Oh, then that actually brings me to another point. I find myself finding snippets of Joe Rogan's podcast, call it silly or not, that I know it's one of the most popular podcasts, and I'm the first believer that most popular does not equal the best by any means. I think about our country's decisions in music and in race cars. Like, there's some things I vehemently disagree with that just because they're the most popular, I do not equate them to being the best. But Joe Rogan's podcast is very popular. I don't know if it's the 3rd or 5th or 10th, most downloaded podcast that's out there. When he does his podcast now, I believe every day he does it also live to YouTube. And normally I find myself watching little 10-minute snippets that they put out, recently. And I've only done this in the last couple of weeks. I'll put it on in the background while I'm doing something else on my computer. And I've gained a ton of respect for how just the breadth of knowledge that Joe Rogan has. Like, I do not consider him centric to any one specific thing. He seems like a very knowledgeable individual about a lot of different topics. I very much can respect that. I don't know anything about MMA or jiu-jitsu or a lot of those things that he does talk about, but he talks a lot about health and wellness. And last week he had the executive from Twitter on. So he's got a lot of different people, and Neil deGrasse Tyson. I find myself getting sucked into a few of these interviews from time to time. Today he was live, and here's one of my long-winded takeaways here. You want to guess how many people he had watching live? And I know that's not his main demographic, his live listeners on YouTube.
Watching live?
Watching live today during his, what I think was a 3 or 4 hour podcast, all about
622.
No, higher.
Okay. Well, I thought you were going to be like, he only had this many, but...
Well, I will say it. He only, for being one of the top podcasts on the planet, he only had like 15,000.
Oh.
And I consider, don't get me wrong, but here's where the draw or the point is, he has 15,000 people, and he's one of the more popular influencers in the social media podcast world, which you cannot directly equate to sports. I get it. But my point is, if we get 4 or 5 or 6 or 8,000 people watching disc golf,
it's not bad.
I don't think it's bad. I mean, and I went on kind of a rant last year at one point about where are we coming up with these magic numbers? Why do we say 25,000, we need 25,000 people watching, or we need 50 or 100,000 people watching? Of course, we'd always like more. But when I look at someone like a Joe Rogan, who has so much popularity, and he's got 15,000 watching on YouTube, the next question is, how many subscribers does he have? I mean, maybe that's nothing compared to the amount of his subscriber base. Do you think I'm crazy for thinking that, though? That number is very moderate, his 15,000 live viewers today?
I don't think that's crazy.
I mean, if we have 5,000 people watching the third round of coverage somewhere.
Trevor's saying it's normally in the 30 to 40 range.
Wow. So were his viewers, I'm sorry.
Maybe he restarted his stream. That could be. Like we had to.
Now, and somebody out there can probably clarify, since I never watch him live. Something else of note, his YouTube chat comments were off. Disabled.
That could be. I bet you that's all the time. I bet you.
I'm guessing it is.
Yeah, I bet you there's not, when you get to certain.
You can't moderate. You could barely keep up.
It's very difficult to moderate. You need.
Yeah, he is just short of 5 million subscribers. 4,900,000. So we're just going to call it a flat 5 million. 5 million subscribers and 15,000. So interesting to see if it's normally 30 to 40,000. Now, granted, I came in today and they had a scientist / journalist arguing with another specialist guy from the medical field. They were arguing about basically how and why people are fat or obese, and how literally how fat works, and metabolic this and blah blah. I mean, they were really dialed in on some really specific stuff that I could see people could easily lose interest. I could see that as well. But anyway, that was my takeaway today. I think about the numbers. I think about the Pro Tour, SmashBoxx, the records that have been set anywhere among us, and I just thought that's really interesting numbers. Now, of course, I think he has a few more podcast downloads than we do.
Like 50 or 60.
Billion times.
That's a million.
Anyway, all right. Let's take that kind of and mix a few concepts. Is there a legitimate concern, going back to this whole commercial thing, is there a legitimate concern that a potential advertiser and or sponsor should have that maybe they don't feel like there were enough of their commercials this weekend? If they were truly struggled to put them out there, is that a valid concern?
Yeah. I mean, if you look at, we're going to take two comparisons. We're going to take the Memorial, which is a Discraft event.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that, and obviously there were hurdles this particular event with the switching. Memorial, I thought, was representative pretty well for Discraft.
Okay.
And then you get to the Waco, which is a DD event. And I think they ran a DD event at the end of the show a couple times.
Yep.
I think I did
every
see
day
on
closed out with that.
I think
Yeah.
they closed it. I could understand if I were DD, I would be maybe a little upset depending on what your agreement was.
And that's the one thing we don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea. Maybe there was no agreement. Maybe that it's part and parcel. I have no idea. Maybe DD has the right to be upset. Maybe they don't. But I would say if you look at the two different events,
there's a stark contrast.
There's a very stark contrast there.
Yeah, and when I was putting in perspective, as you and I know quite well, last year, for instance, when we had covered the entire Pro Tour and the year before, and the year before that, there's essentially 10 events, 10 or 11 events, and you're talking about probably 30-some live coverage days when that's all said and done. Average of three rounds per event, a couple have 4, so roughly 30-some live coverage days. And someone had said to me, well, is so-and-so upset, or should they be upset, or whatever, kind of posing the same question. I said, I don't know. I don't know the finances. I don't know what the agreements are in place. I don't know what pertains to live versus what pertains to post-production. Those are all agreements and details that I don't need to know, nor really should I know, because that's Steve Dodge and that's the Pro Tour's inner workings. But it does raise an interesting question that all kind of circles back to that whole idea of, do people miss commercials?
I don't think anyone misses them. I think they have a great place. And they are needed for multiple reasons, but nobody's going to miss them. If you told everybody, hey, guess what? This year, we have enough equipment and users and staff that we are going to give you commercial-free live broadcasting, nobody would bat an eye. Everyone would be cheering.
And this could be specific to the Memorial or potentially to anyone in the future that's watching. If we are constantly switching cards and watching action from other cards, is there then a chance for people to get confused or disjointed?
Sure, there is.
Because that's what everybody's been saying. We'll say for the last 5 years is I don't want to just watch one card. I don't have that kind of time. They really need to be, they meaning us usually, need to be splicing in, footage that either happened earlier or footage that's happening on other cards. So the Pro Tour is trying to arrive at that model, and that existed a little bit at the Memorial. One piece of feedback that I heard in staying at the Memorial and someone watching the coverage said, I don't know what's going on. They keep switching, or they're giving us action from other cards, and their immediate feedback was they felt disjointed and like they didn't know what was going on. That's why I posed the question to you, someone who is pressing the buttons. Do you feel like that's possible?
Oh, I think it's possible. I don't feel that was the majority. I think most people that had paid attention, you could, and I will say Nate and Val were very good about, this is the chase card. We're going to see how the chase card did it. And usually it was clearly clipped and shorter version of what we normally saw. Now I could I could figure out a way, and it probably wouldn't be too tough, to have some sort of graphic that was like, maybe I even had it. Yeah, I think I even had a thing that's a chase card on it at one point.
Yeah, I think you did. I hated the font, but that's another story.
Yeah, I think it's the default font is what it was.
I don't like it.
And it was a last second thing. So people would know that this was the chase card.
Yeah, sure.
I mean,
yeah, okay. I mean, and that might be the perfect solution, or eventually it says third card or whatever it says, or from earlier if it's actually a spliced in piece or whatever. Those are all opportunities and ways that you could maybe help distinguish it or whatever.
Correct.
I'm just wondering if that legitimately could be a problem. Is so many people are used to watching, slow or otherwise, they're used to watching one group in its entirety, and then if you're cutting to various cards, is there an amount of confusion that could set in?
Well, I was thinking about this too. Golf, regular golf, so to speak, is so much slower than disc golf. Your shots take so much longer.
Yeah.
An average disc golf shot takes about 10 seconds. 10 to 12 from with it, not if you're not including, you know, your Philo or you know, your Chris Dickerson that, you know, that will add up. But from the time the back of the tee pad to when the disc lands on a drive, it's about 10 to 12 seconds. And a putt is usually about 6 seconds, 5 to 6 seconds of what you want to see. With golf, it's so much slower. So, I mean, if you actually, and I don't know this for a fact, if you actually looked at the number of shots that we see on a typical PGA 3-hour show and the number of shots a Disc Golf Pro Tour shows, I would not be surprised if they were relatively close for the Memorial. Because you don't normally get to see all of the lead cards shots. You get to see a majority of them. And they'll slice in an occasional, hey, this was Tiger on hole 5 moments ago. And you see him pitch up to the green. Maybe then you see him putt. Maybe they wait to show you the putt. And by then, you know, they'll go back to something else. Our style so far has been much different. It's been, you know, golf, and then chop, 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 chop. And we show like 4 players in a row throw a drive, and then 4 players putt, or 3 players putt, and 1 person putt out, or whatever. It's going to be interesting to try to work our way over to that, because I think that, and there's got to be a way, but if we were to have way more cameras and try to fill a lot of that time, that's when I think it could get really crazy. When you just start seeing, okay, cool,
random shots.
Random shots. All right, here's Chris Dickerson playing hole 2. He throws, then he approaches, and then he putts. And you know, maybe that's 27 seconds. And then you've got 20 seconds to fill, or 27 seconds to fill, while the players are walking up the fairway. Do you show another shot? Do you go to the catch cam and watch the players walk up? There is so much that's going to be difficult to adjust to based on the speed of our play. And I don't know where that's going to go or how that's going to happen, because we're not there yet. I mean, we don't have that many cameras where it's a worry that keeps me up at night. I just think that when we get there, that's going to be different. That we're going to have to find a way to make it so it's not so jerky. Whether that is a cool transition, which I've thought about, like, you know, something slide across the screen like we have for replays. Say, oh, you know, chase card action or something like that.
Sure. Well, those are, I think the timing of it, as you're saying, is going to be really tough to adjust for, because even if you have 2 bad tee shots during a round of golf, they're still walking hundreds, if not thousands, well, not thousands of feet. They're walking hundreds of feet and taking, you know, plenty of time to do that. For us, as you already know, when we have 4 people,
if you have one bad shot, that could be a 15-second walk. Click, 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 click.
Yep.
Boom.
And all of a sudden you're there and they're ready to throw, and then you can't throw it to other action, and then, you know, so on and so forth. So, yeah, I mean, just the way that they're, even with an unlimited supply of cameras, and then also show switchers, as you said earlier, we need more people to be able to do that kind of stuff. There's still certain hurdles that are going to be really tough and specific to disc golf that I don't know how or when we're going to be able to even address them.
Yeah, because think about golf when you have, you know, a twosome, which is I think usually what they play. The 2 guys are probably each at least 300 yards downfield. Very rarely we see one guy 150 yards or 100 yards. But in our sport, you could easily have someone 30 feet, 130 feet, 250 feet, and 450 feet down a fairway.
Exactly.
And those are the logistics that we're going to have to figure out, whether we can time delay the lead card a little bit and try to cut that together. And that gets really hairy when you start talking about, you know, with catch and stuff, and you need a lot more people to do that. I mean, as we know,
be able to digest all of that and then
and cut it together
in some
and edit.
kind of sequence.
It's going to be an interesting hurdle to accomplish.
Yeah, if we get to that point, or when we get to that point.
Which is why, you know, when we talk with Terry Roddy, who works on the PGA, and he sends us a picture of, hey, this is our camera tent, and they have 57 cameras lined up, and you're like, oh, wow, that's pretty cool. And he's like, yeah, this is a $5 million broadcast today.
Yeah.
And it's like the Piney Woods Open in September or something like most people barely care about. It's not even the Masters or something.
Sure,
along
and
those
it's just
lines.
a regular old
It's just
event.
a
And to put it in perspective, one of those 57 cameras
costs more than our production.
Yeah, it costs more than an entire year of all of our production with all 3 or 4 or 5 people on staff. One camera worth more than an entire year's worth of productions from us. So the scale that's there is crazy.
And
David John, come on, stop super chatting.
and Daniel says, he and Daniel Reynoso says he enjoys the pace of play of disc golf, and cutting in the chase for some filler, it's good. I agree. I think we could, if you had one more roaming camera to be able to maybe piece a couple more things in, just some highlights from other cards, that's great. But as we know, it's hard to catch those highlights if you have like one roaming camera. You might follow a group and not get a single highlight for 6 holes,
and then you walk away and someone
then
aces.
someone walks away and you're like, oh God. So yeah.
Well,
here's what I will say. In the last couple of weeks, we had Eagle McMahon on and Paul Macbeth. Eagle gets into the 1050 club. Paul Macbeth wins Waco
and shoots 18 under.
SmashBoxx
bump. Speaking of which, happy birthday, Johnny V. Is it your birthday?
Technically it is.
Oh, how adorable.
I'm now 41.
Johnny V.
I mean, 27.
Just like Eagle turned, what, 19 or 18 here?
Something like that.
Here you are turning old enough to be his grandpa.
Damn. It's probably...
Happy birthday to Johnny V.
That would be tough to be his grandpa, but...
I've seen bigger.
I've got a cousin who is a year older than me. She is a grandmother.
Well, there you go.
But, I mean, not to an 18-year-old, but a grandmother nonetheless.
All right. Well, yes. Johnny.
And her mom is only like 18 years older than her, so...
All right, just
they get it done.
They're economical.
They get it
That's
done.
one way to put it. They're economical.
Family.
Just efficient. Very efficient.
Yes.
That's the better word. Efficient. We'll throw that out there. Speaking of efficiency, a question I had in mind. I've talked about Johnny V and I both very much talked about various roles, ideas, concepts, ways to go about media. As I was at the memorial, and I don't want to dig too far back, but as I was at the memorial, I did a little bit of Facebook Live. I did a little bit Instagram Live. I guess a question to the world that I'd love to know is there an opportunity, whether it's, I'll say, really low budget, that means
it's what we do best.
Me with a gimbal, like a nice stabilizer that walks around and films and brings you live footage via YouTube or Facebook, or an intermediate budget of, say, me giving some form of a basic stream to a Johnny V to then allow to put onto a YouTube or a Facebook. I guess the question is, would those solutions, A, be practical, and B, would they be valued by you guys? Would they, and I'll use an example, and this, again, I'm just talking out of my nose and completely hypothetical. Would a Steve Dodge grant or allow me to go live on a chase card? Or, I was going to say even a third card. Let's say he's got in-house production being done, and it's covering lead card and it's covering chase card of FPO or MPO. Could I, with a single camera, and maybe or maybe not doing my own commentary with that camera, I'm talking old school, send a signal to Johnny and then put it out? Does that divide up the views? Is that counterproductive at that point? Is that something we'd pursue if we could self-fund it? Because Steve's not going to pay us to do it, understandably, because he's got his own budgets. Could it be crowdsourced? Could it be Patreon or Super Chat funded? I mean, those are. I want to start thinking outside the box, and again, maybe it's a medium to small production on our end, or maybe it's super elementary and it's just me. Just trying to look for feedback. I'd be curious to what people think of that. I think about these next upcoming weeks. I think of a Throw Down the Mountain. It's not going to be live. Jomez is going to be there, and guess what? It's still not going to be live because Jomez doesn't do live. But then I think about the next weekend in Jacksonville. I think about the next weekend in Tallahassee. Is there a solution? Is there a way maybe on low level to still provide live coverage that people would want. I'd love to hear people's feedback on that. Is there a middle ground for us to do something like that? Does that make sense? You and I have talked about, sending you a basic stream, you putting a few graphics on it. Is that something that should be explored for non-Pro Tour or National Tour events?
I don't know. For non-Pro Tour and national,
Other A tiers. We'll say other A tiers with solid performers.
I mean, I guess. I mean, it's so hard to say. I think people are saying yes on here. I mean, people would love. I think obviously more golf is better.
The dude brings up an interesting point. You might get some support from disc manufacturers to cover specific players. We know at the Pro Tour a feature card can be assembled. There's a small fee associated with that, but possibly a manufacturer would say, "Hey, yeah, let's get a feature card. We know at least 2 of our players are going to be on this card, and we would love to support that effort."
Mm-hmm.
There's an idea there, huh?
Maybe.
And Maker's Telemark says Steve Hill did it at the last tournament. I mean, similar but different. I guess I would look to go just maybe a notch above what he had done. I mean, he had a stabilizer and he had his phone, and then he was calling the shots live, and that's the basics. I would want to go just a step above that in terms of production value. I know there's a few things that can be done to take that up 1 notch or maybe 2 notches. Of course, you still have, a challenge of cellular signal and those types of things to be concerned about. But if there was an intermediate step between, really basic with a handheld phone and a full production, somewhere in between, or maybe somebody would say, you know what, I don't want to risk having poor to mediocre coverage, so I'll just pass on it entirely. That's also possible. But I would be interested to hear more feedback on it. Did you see, maybe this was talked about, no, it wasn't. Did you see there is a GoFundMe project for a feature film to be produced in disc golf?
I saw something along those lines. I didn't get a chance to dig into it.
I just switched gears, by the way, people, really quickly.
Yeah. It's woof. I did see something along those lines. I didn't dig that much into it.
David John, quit giving us money.
Thank you, David
Seriously.
John. Much appreciated.
Thank you. David John, another super chat. You just like seeing all the different colors, and we're okay with that. If you want to see the whole rainbow of different super chat colors, we do appreciate it. There is a gentleman who has a GoFundMe out there. He wants to create a full feature movie. I'm guessing like an 1.5 to 2 hour movie. He's doing casting. I mean, the whole 9 yards. He's doing all of it. But first, he wants to put together a teaser or a trailer clip of sorts, and he's looking to get funding for that. And then if that goes well, I think he wants to then produce a feature film.
I mean, there's no reason why it wouldn't work. I mean, just like any good, you could base a movie around anything.
Yeah, and he wants to base it on the story of a up and coming player. He even flat out said I'm gonna add some adversity to him, a challenge or a hiccup or whatever he called it. We'll put in a challenge or an obstacle and some adversity, and then tell the story from there. Okay, I don't know that I'm sold. Maybe, but it's out there if you want to look it up. It is available. I think it's good for like another month. It's just funny. I think about the projects I've been involved with over all the years, whether it's a Disc Golf Planet or the Pro Tour or SmashBoxx or the Disc Golf Guy. And I've always thought, I feel like you go to that reserve once, maybe just once, for a GoFundMe idea. Like, I think you need to knock it out of the park. And if it goes well, then maybe you look into another one. I've never gone to that well, and I may never do it, but we'll see how this one pans out. It definitely will be interesting.
Yeah, I'm always skeptical about
Skeptical.
Skeptical. Wow, I can almost talk.
You absolutely.
Yeah, my once you hit 41, just everything goes downhill.
Your brain is mush.
It just turned mush. About GoFundMe's, and it's just.
I apologize. It's a Kickstarter.
Or a Kickstarter.
It is a Kickstarter, which means if it doesn't,
one.
well, they're different.
I know, but I'm in general, I'm skeptical about either one, especially when it comes to something like that, because there's no guarantees. Again, there's no guarantees of a product, even if he hits his goal, and things like that. But I'm not by any means saying that
no.
It's
I know
shady
you're
or
not
anything,
singling
but
him out.
But
you don't even know who it is.
I have
so,
no clue who it is.
Exactly. I know.
But in general, I mean, it could be fun. Could be cool. I would rather. I don't know how much he's looking for, but
$10,000. I feel like for the teaser trailer clip, like the short version. That I think he wants to make a 10-minute version. That is the I don't know, the pitch, whatever you want to call it. He's got, qualified people and staff and crew to do it all, and I just know if I was asking for 10 grand, yeah, I guess I'm thinking about what I'd be on the hook for. All right, speaking of cool and fun and amazing stuff, fantasy disc golf. What is this? Where we insert a plug? What's going on there?
Well, we just had the Waco event. Obviously, next week is Throw Down the Mountain. I need to tomorrow take a look and find out who our winners are for our Infinite Discs gift certificates. This week was actually kind of interesting because we had a couple players that didn't show up.
Ooh,
you had
such as
Nico, who was on the registration at one point, and Drew Gibson, who ended up tearing his Achilles, unfortunately. So it could be a while before we see Drew Gibson back on the field. So there were one or two. I mean, there was a few people who had both of them picked. And,
ouch.
Yeah, and so unfortunately you have to. Ryan Pilcher asks about this. Just like if you were to back in the old days, before I pulled directly from the PDGA registration, people would just pick players that weren't at events, so you had to punish them, and so you would lose points. And unfortunately, because Nico didn't show up and Drew Gibson didn't show up, you get penalized for one of those players, and it's whoever is your alternate based on Nico not showing up. So that happens, but ultimately it's been good. I mean, we have email notifications that go out now if you sign up. Infinite Discs is giving away gift certificates every week. We are working on a couple other updates that should hopefully be out in the next week or so. But you can remove yourself from old leagues. We're going to work on hopefully managers of leagues being able to boot people out and just kind of slowly get the I'll say the profile side of the pages of the site more user friendly and up to date. And then next year, I think the big push will be for a new UI, a slightly new look to it, a little more modern. It's one of the spots where it's still very much lacking, in my opinion. It works, everything, it's a little bit. It's not as user friendly as I think it could be, but it's something. Let's just put it this way: I designed it, and I suck at art, and I suck at UI. It's not my thing. So I might actually look at hiring someone to kind of look at it and maybe just give it an overhaul next year. This year, it's all about features. Hopefully next year, it'll be all about looks.
Pretty it up a little bit?
Pretty it up a little bit. Stick your mug on the front of it.
So unpretty too. TLC. Before we get to the Patreon giveaway of the night, I totally forgot to push and pimp my tournament, the Skyline Classic. 2 rounds of 18. Come join us April 20th in southeastern Wisconsin. And here's the big takeaway. There are sponsorship opportunities available. So this is a PDJ B tier that I'm running in conjunction with another buddy. This is a Wisconsin tour event. Plenty of people have signed up. I think we've got 40 or 50 or 60 out of the 144 signed up. It's still a month out, so that's great to see such great pre-registration. It's a trophy-only event on the amateur side, so they're going to get a huge player pack that's probably valued about 150% of your entry fee. I guarantee, if it all works out, that these may be some of the more unique trophies. Those are a secret, but they may be some of the more unique trophies that I've ever given out. They will at least rival, if not top, the Nintendo cartridge trophies I did a couple years ago. It's not Nintendo cartridges or anything like that, but I think they're going to be really unique and a lot of fun. And if you're interested, I know I usually don't ask for a lot of tournament support because I don't run as many tournaments as I used to. But if you or your club or your company or whatever are interested, please reach out to me and I'll give you plenty of love and attention if you're interested in supporting the B tier I'm running, the Skyline Classic, PDGA B tier. And they upped the minimum requirements this year to $750. For many years now, it's been $500 has to go into the added cash, and now they've upped it to $750 for 2019. They upped the A tier requirements, all of which I think are good things, but that's usually when I fall short of any kind of added cash, it all comes out of my pocket, and that is not smart. So I'm looking for legitimate sponsors for that event. All right, let's give away some free stuff if you got it.
I do. Well, I don't have any free stuff.
I've got plenty of free stuff.
You've got plenty of stuff to give away.
And quick update on that. Tomorrow or Thursday, if you've won anything in the last 2 or 3 weeks now, it's all getting caught up tomorrow or Thursday before I leave, because then I'm gone for a few weeks, and sometimes they get consolidated into one big day of shipping. So I know Jeff Hungerford won last week, for instance. So if you have something coming, expect that to go out in the next 2 days, because then I'm gone for 3 weeks.
Absolutely.
Listen, I got to tell you.
Listen, absolutely. All right. So once again, patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV. You can, if you're a supporter of us there, you can be entered into our weekly drawing for a prize. This week, Terry's going to pull something out of his stash, and we will make sure that gets to you. We currently have 215 Patreon supporters, so thank you to all of you. We love you the most. Like I said, at the end of this month, hopefully we'll see the first of the clothing rewards get sent out. Shout out to Tim Courts for that. Terry?
Thank you, Tim.
What number should we?
3.
The
You're
third.
going to be gone for 3 weeks.
He's going to be gone for 3 weeks.
I hope to see some of you in Florida.
All right, so between that'd be our third randomly generated number.
Random is random.
209, 157, and these are all sorted by first name. 197. So we're going down the list, all the way down into.
How were they sorted?
By first name. 197. Timothy Donegan.
Timothy
Donegan. Congratulations.
One of our most active chatters. And I don't mean that in a bad way. No, Timothy is a huge supporter and advocate, loves to promote, and I feel like he's got SmashBoxx's back in lots of ways.
Thank you, Timothy.
Maybe even too much, but Timothy,
much appreciated.
Seriously, we appreciate it. That is awesome.
Yeah. So
thanks, Tim.
Congratulations, Timothy.
Very cool. Someone said, Terry, your Silver Fox course is awesome. Thank you. Real quick, back to the Skyline. They're 2 good courses, 2 really good courses, 2 of the more well-liked courses in the state. We got a lot of great courses. We have over 300 in Wisconsin. Very blessed to have that. But these 2 are 2 great courses. They are 3 miles apart from one another, both featuring concrete tees, all that good stuff. And just you'll get 2 really solid rounds of golf in to come play in that tournament. So thank you. I'm glad you like it. It's both the Silver Fox and the Gray Fox courses located in Silver Lake, Wisconsin, just barely over the Wisconsin-Illinois border on the good side. I didn't say that.
Yeah, you did.
Did Stokely fall off the planet? No, I saw him make a post. It sounds like he's somewhat active. He's always making posts about when he's president. There is a certain amount of serious humor to the idea of him being president. I think he would be pretty awesome. But it looks like he's serious into his work. He occasionally talks about the idea of doing something podcast-ish related, but then doesn't seem to it doesn't follow suit, unfortunately, because he was off to a pretty good start with his.
He was off to a pretty good start, and unfortunately, he switched jobs. Where now he's like the head of sales at some company, and he's traveling a lot more. And his plan was to do the podcast while on the road. So basically interview somebody and record it on his phone. And so we talked about that. And because I guess he's got like an hour and a half commute each way now. So So I think he kind of running out of time. But I know he's doing another podcast, some with a priest or something, a friend of his who is very religious, and Scott, who's more, I think, on the atheist side, and they're having just a good, honest conversation about stuff. But I know he reached out to me a month or two ago and said, he was like, I still want to do this, and I think it's just a matter of him finding time now for that. Plus, I think he's like a manager for wrestling, some local wrestling thing. Hey, I can't keep up with that guy.
No,
honestly, and he's still doing the Blue Power stuff. So if you look out there are still some events that he plans on running this year. So I wish he would continue with that, but it's tough. I mean, it's tough on all aspects, which is one of the reasons why I picked up the SmashBoxx Unsanctioned, which will hopefully pick back up now that I'm back from vacation. So we'll get that rolling again.
Okay, yeah. Some people were asking about that. Who's next on the?
I don't know.
In the queue.
I don't know, honestly. I need to line up some interviews this week.
Okay. I don't even think I shared this with you. I'm hoping to line up a couple interviews this week. I believe that my living quarters may include Paul Macbeth.
That guy?
And Hannah Macbeth.
Okay.
I'm going to try and convince her to maybe help with a little commentary of sorts. And then I also had Simon Lizotte reach out to me the other day and ask where I was staying. And we have a very gracious host in Florida when I've been going to these Brooksville events, and he said that Simon could also be welcome. So
nice.
I'm gonna try and get some good recordings and work with these guys. Maybe they'll play along with some fun game or do something fun to be rooming with Simon, Paul, and Hannah, and I'm sure Hannah's got some great ideas. She's the brains in that group, but we knew that.
I say nothing.
Probably best. All right. No, David John, our super chats are not non-tax deductible.
We pay taxes on all super chats and all of our Patreon support. That's the easiest way to put it.
Yes, if that's what you're trying to ask. We pay taxes.
Oh, tell me, we paid some taxes in the past couple of years,
and I'm just going to skip doing that anytime
that's
in the future.
That's a good call. They don't like that.
We talked about it a little bit earlier, but yes, Paul's in the Bag, I believe, dropped earlier tonight that he had worked with Jomez on, and I think I also said earlier, but we'll say it again. Congrats to Jomez. looks like their 100,000 subscriber party that they hosted at Baylor this weekend was massive.
It was boring. Nobody showed up.
Boring,
it was just Jonathan.
Stupid.
The rest of the crew didn't show up. They left Jonathan. It was a big joke.
They were all editing.
They were busy editing.
Jonathan showed up. But congrats to them.
It looked like a lot of fun.
Every ounce of success they've experienced is rightfully due, and they're doing amazing things. And I said it on their wall today. And, that was another thing that me personally, I'll admit, with not being at the Waco event, I also didn't get to participate, obviously, in that either. And I definitely feel like I missed out. It looks like it was a really good time.
It did.
Congrats to them and everything that they're doing. David John with another super chat. If we got to pay taxes on that, David John, so you need to check up. I mean, we don't even see any of that, what you just gave us. I mean, that all goes to taxes. I think that's how it works. All right, birthday boy. Anything else we need to talk about before we close things out here tonight?
I don't think so.
You gonna get all buck wild here? We can still go out. It's only 12:20.
That's true. We could hit up a couple bars.
Time to go bar hopping.
The big 4-1.
Yeah. Well, I'm a spring chicken here yet.
I honestly had to think about how old I was before because I typed in 42 at first. I'm like, wait, no, I'm only 41. Okay.
So we going out?
No.
Okay, I'll go out.
You can go out. I'm going to edit the podcast and probably go to bed.
Oh. Wow. All right. I guess that sucks.
Well,
I'll go out.
You can go out. Go out for me.
I'll live stream it for you.
Thanks. I'll watch.
And then I'll let you know how it goes. Well, I don't think we have anything else on the board, so I would like to...
Happy first day of spring, too.
Is it?
Usually it's March 20th.
I'll say there's a pretty significant turn that I think we're going to, this week it looks like, and as I head off to Florida, but it looks like a legitimate turn into like 50s for like the next 5 or 7 days.
Sure, but I don't believe it.
Oh, I'm not saying we're not going to see more snow or that this is the end of it, but there is a legitimate uptick in the weather that's forecasted for Wisconsin for the next 5 to 7 days, and I'll see how Florida treats me instead.
I'm sure it'll be warm. And
hopefully not too muggy. It looks like 70s.
And buggy.
70s.
My guess.
70s.
Yeah, sure.
Take it. Looking forward to Throw Down the Mountain and Brooksville and all those other fun ones. Good night. Happy birthday, as TJ says. And TJ, I know I thanked you a couple weeks ago. You become a Patreon supporter of SmashBoxxTV and of the Disc Golf Guy vlogs. I appreciate it. Thank you. It's part of what keeps us going. So for Johnny V, the birthday boy, for Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, that's been podcast after show 239. We love and appreciate all of you guys. Thanks for joining us on Tuesday nights into Wednesday mornings and being here every week. Thank you to Catrina. Thank you to Dana. We'll see you next week when you step inside the Smashbox.